All right, hello and happy New Year. Seems pretty crazy that 2024 went by so fast. Good to see everybody in the chat already today, wherever you happen to be watching from. I tried to schedule this at a time where people in Europe and people in the U.S. and everybody could kind of jump in at the same time. But yeah, seeing a lot of familiar faces in the chat already. And just so somebody said, "Yikes!" The deer head. Yeah. So today we're test driving my new Elon Musk Magic Sky Internet. So I kind of live out in the woods where internet service is not that great. We just got hooked up with the Starlink satellite internet. I just hooked it up a couple days ago. So anyway, hopefully everything is going to run smooth on this live stream. If for whatever reason it happens to drop or something goes sideways, well, we'll readjust and I'll jump back on. So anyway, 2024 is kind of reflecting back on how it looked for the History Underground channel. This past year, like when you're in the middle of the year, you know, sometimes things kind of move by and they move fast. And then end of the year, you kind of look back and I was like, holy smokes. This was a pretty wild year. I traveled more and traveled further than I've ever traveled in any single year in my life. Started off, I don't think I really publicized this really too much, but I had I don't know, maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, had a group of high school students that asked me to take them on a trip to Paris and Normandy. So my travel this year started off in March, taking this group of high school students to Paris and Normandy. I planned the whole thing myself, and yeah, from beginning to end, didn't go through a tour company, anything like that. Pretty cool experience going with this group of students. I we started off the trip in Paris for a couple days, and then we were going to be in Normandy for about 4 days. And I thought, man, I'm going to take these kids to Paris, and they're going to see this big city, and they're going to see the Eiffel Tower, and they're going to see all kinds of different things. And then I'm going to take them to Normandy, and it's going to be walking in fields and stuff like that for 4 days, and they're going to hate me. And by the end of the trip, it was interesting to hear their feedback. Almost all of them said that if they had to do the trip over again, they were glad that they went to Paris. But if they had it to do over again, they would skip Paris and spend more time in Normandy. So I know a lot of people, you know, kind of rip on Gen Z and things like that. But my experience has not fit with the stereotype. There's a pretty dialed in group that's up and coming now, and a lot of them are interested in history. So that's where my year of travel started, and then went to the 80th anniversary in Normandy. Just recently got back from the 80th anniversary of the Battle of the Bulge. Went to some World War I battlefields. We had a big series in Arras, which is a battlefield that typically gets looked over. Trying to think what else. Also went to England for We Have Ways Fest. Did some stuff in the north part of the country at Hadrian's Wall. And also series that is currently running, traveled further away from home than we have ever traveled on this channel by going to the Solomon Islands, to the island of Guadalcanal, which has been a pretty wild trip. So hopefully everyone is enjoying that stuff so far. And as always, I appreciate everyone's support for the channel and all the kind words that people have had, you know, throughout 2024 with all of the places that we've been. And I appreciate the negative comments as well, because those people are hilarious to me. But anyway, I don't want to spend too much time talking about, you know, History Underground or anything like that. Here's what we got going on today. We are going to have like this huge marathon of history creators on YouTube that are going to be cycling in. We're going to kind of talk about what 2024 looked like for all of us, and what things are looking like for the future in 2025. And this isn't an exhaustive list, so there's tons of people that I follow on great creators. We're just going to get a handful of them today. And I saw somebody leave a comment. I can't remember if it was on X or Facebook or whatever it was the other day, but they saw my thumbnail and they said, I recognize you and I recognize like Project Past, and he named somebody else. And he said, I'm looking forward to learning more about the other channels. So as we go through the chat today, talking with all these different people from all over, man, I hope this ends up being like a big subscribe-a-thon where you will subscribe to these other channels, because they're all amazing and all approach history from a different angle and are outstanding. So our first couple of guests that we're going to bring in is probably a few guys that you already recognize. Got Eric, Gettysburg Museum of History, and Jared from the channel Real History. So appreciate you guys jumping in. Eric,
Happy New Year,
are also the co-authors of Hang Tough and Fierce Valor. So if you got an Amazon gift card for Christmas, that would be a good place to spend it. So anyway, hey, between the two of you guys, you all racked up some airline miles this year.
Yeah, we did. I went on the same 2 trips to Normandy and Bastogne with JD with the Rifle Project, and I also did a tour in May with Matthew Leach and We Happy Few 506 Gettysburg Museum, which was an amazing 2-week tour, and probably one of the best ones I've ever been on. It had a great group of people. And but that was really all I did. But the 80th anniversary of Normandy and the 80th anniversary of the Battle of the Bulge were very special, because we were with some World War II veterans, and just an amazing experience. And I got to meet Tom Hanks at the Normandy one, which was really cool. I got to shake his hand, which was something I always wanted to do, since Band of Brothers really inspired myself, and I'm sure Jared also, with the Band of Brothers series, to write these books that we've written. So that was really cool experience.
Awesome. Jared, you just got back. We actually weren't too far from each other.
It's true. Yeah, we were in different areas of operation for the Battle of the Bulge anniversary. I was with you all in spirit, though, in Bastogne. I was located a little bit further to the south, and the rather understudied southern shoulder of the Battle of the Bulge defenses. And it was very special for me because I was marching and sometimes riding in the footsteps of my grandfather's division, and that was the 4th Infantry Division. So I lived 3 days out in the field with a great group of reenactors. I wasn't able to join them for the entirety of their expedition, but it was one of the best things I've ever done. I thought for certain I would catch pneumonia or get frostbite, but I'm glad to say that I didn't. And so it didn't get that authentic. But I got enough of a taste of the cold out there in the foxholes to get a pretty good glimpse, or at least a little bit of empathy as to what our forebears were going through 80 years ago.
Yeah, and I guess for Eric and I, and for you, I mean, we're kind of in the same area, but 2 slightly different experiences that kind of represents a crossing point that we're at right now. So Eric and I were with 5 World War II veterans, and this is, at the 70th anniversaries and the 75th anniversaries, people were saying, okay, this is going to be the last anniversary where there's veterans. This probably was the last anniversary where at least you're going to have veterans on a semi-large scale.
Yeah.
From here on out, I know that Andy said this is going to be the last trip that he does with veterans. I think Eric, the young guy in our group, was 99.
Yeah, right.
I think. Yeah, he was the baby of the group. So you have that on our end, and then on your end, it's probably looking at like the next phase of interpretation of history like with living history and reenactments and things like that, because the firsthand accounts are about gone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm reminded of some wise words that my old boss at Gettysburg National Military Park, Chris Gwynn, once said to me. And he created, I think, a really good parallel between the Civil War and the Second World War, because right now we are the same distance away from World War II as what the World War II generation was from the Civil War. And in 1944 and in 2024, those two conflicts are going from events that were lived to events that were remembered. And so it's increasingly becoming a remembered event by generations who did not live it themselves. And so I think that's something very poignant to keep in mind as we think about the future chapters of how these things are interpreted.
Yeah, exactly.
Very important. And that reminds me of a quote that I've said before that Jim Pee Wee Martin made to me one time when we were together doing a show together. And he said that when we're gone, it's up to you guys, the historians, to keep our stories going. So I think about that a lot, because they're almost all gone now at this point.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm looking at a few comments over on the sidebar. I don't think we're going to be able to do this, but one is asking for a tour of Jared's bookshelf. Maybe you can tell us what you're reading right now.
Right now, I was moving away from military history for the holiday season, read something a little bit more lighthearted, and I actually picked up a book while I was in Luxembourg, and it's written by an American by the name of Mike McQuaid, who lives over in Luxembourg. He's his wife got a job there a number of years ago, and it's kind of like Confederates in the Attic, but through a Luxembourgish lens.
Okay.
And it's his adventures through the countryside and discovering the country, and of course there are World War II undercurrents within that tale. So I'm reading something a little bit more lighthearted as we speak. But the last history book I read was When Hell Came to Sharpsburg by Steve Cowie. So the civilian experience in wartime is something that really interests me. And I know Eric shares that same sort of passion because his family history is deeply ingrained in it, especially the Battle of Gettysburg.
Absolutely. And, it's funny, you were saying you read something very light recently. And this may be why Jared and I work so well together, light and dark. I just finished Nikki Sixx from Motley Crue's Heroin Diaries. And I got to say, it's probably one of the hardest books I ever read, meaning hard to get through because it was so dark and it was really hard to read. And also physically hard to read because it's printed on like black pages and red pages. It has like, it's like made like a scrapbook.
Oh,
but it was a New York Times bestseller, and I was reading this thing, and it was just debauchery the whole way through, and very dark stuff. But then at the end, it has this message of recovery, and he dies and comes back to life and wants to live. And it was actually one of the better books, at least rock and roll books that I ever read. And it was a struggle to get through, but I finished it like 2 days ago. So yeah, pretty wild book if you ever want to read something dark and disturbing with a good message at the end. Nikki Sixx, The Heroin Diaries.
So that kind of ties in with a question that just rolled in. Does the guitar behind Eric have a story?
Well, there's actually two guitars behind me, and I recently bought a bunch of items from the band Kix. Now, Kix was a band I grew up with. They're based on the East Coast, but they were signed to Atlantic Records, and they did put out a bunch of, big time records, and they had a couple gold records, and but they were always kind of local, and they retired about a year ago, and they decided to sell some of their equipment. And because I grew up with them, I probably saw them more than any other band because they opened for every major act that came through here. And a lot of people don't know I used to work in the music industry, so the guitar, the Gibson SG behind me was Ronnie 1010 Yonkins from Kix's guitar, and the acoustic Gibson behind me here was Steve Whiteman, the singer of Kix's guitar, and he wrote a lot of the songs from his later group, Funny Money, on that guitar. So they're both pretty historic guitars, and I'm very happy to own them now at this point.
Yeah, people.
So question.
Yeah, people who watch the American Artifact series, I mean, it's a whole lot of Civil War stuff, World War I, World War II. What people may not know is Eric also has just a ridiculous music collection. So I'm trying to talk him into doing some American Artifact videos that kind of tie in that stuff. Maybe we'll get a little bit of music history and some Led Zeppelin and stuff like that. So yeah. Jared, we were just talking about like this transition period of, you know, having firsthand witnesses from the Second World War going into, you know, this next phase. Part of that next phase is the children of these veterans who are telling the stories of their dads. Mm-hmm. And you've got kind of a series that you've been running with the son of the author of my favorite book of all time, With the Old Breed by Eugene Sledge. Can you talk a little bit about what you got going on there?
Yeah, on Real History, for any of the viewers that might not be familiar, we're essentially a history versus Hollywood channel where I offer commentary and sometimes critiques on what Hollywood gets right and wrong about historical films. And one of our most recent productions has been an episode-by-episode breakdown of the iconic HBO series, The Pacific. And we are doing it with a very special guest in the form of the son of one of the key protagonists of the show, Eugene Sledge, and his son Henry Sledge has been joining us in expert commentary. And one of the most rewarding things for me is not only have I become friends with Henry Sledge and his family in the process, but he pulls out these incredible artifacts mid-conversation as we're talking about it. He's like, oh, here's my dad's dog tags. This is what he was wearing on Peleliu. Here's the Japanese bayonet that he brought home, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so we're really able to add another layer of context and richness to the conversation. And if you are a fan of the Pacific, we invite you to hop on over to Real History for a spell and check out those episodes. The next episode comes out on Saturday.
Oh, cool. And that's going to be, are you on episode 3 or 4 right now?
6 will be coming out.
6. Okay.
This Saturday.
All right. Episode 6. All right. So I'm behind.
That's okay. You've been busy.
All right. And Eric, I think somebody even asked the question here. I got to go back and find it. One of the most common questions I get in the comment section for American Artifact is what's up with the museum expansion? What are we looking at in 2025?
Well, that's one of the most asked questions that I get as well. And, you know, I think maybe we may have been a little premature announcing this because people don't realize to do a project like that and to do it correctly, it takes a lot. You know, you don't just jump into it. So the first hurdle that we had to get over was I obtained the building, and then there were some tenants in the building. So those tenants had to vacate. They have now vacated, and we're now fully in the building, but we're in the stage now of planning. And I want to make some major changes to the inside of the building to make it flow better. It is a historic building, so we have to work within certain guidelines. So, I've said this before, we hired Bob Hoffman, who's Major Dick Winters from Band Brothers' best friend. We hired his firm to do the architectural plans and to do this. And he hired a structural engineer to make sure we can do all these grand plans that I have. And so he just completed those a few weeks ago. And so we're supposed to have a Zoom meeting. It was scheduled for after the holidays, so it'll probably be next week, I would say, about going forward and which walls we're going to tear down and all those kind of small details. So it's a slow process. Also, you know, we have to we have to start fundraising because it's going to be costly. I mean, I don't want it to be like the museum that we're in now. I mean, it's cool, but I want to make it a lot more, so it'll stand the test of time. Like I want it to be there forever. We do have a foundation, so it will continue after me. And, I want to make sure we do it right. I mean, I could just like throw a bunch of glass cases in here and put tags on stuff like I did in the other museum, but we don't want to do that with this new project. We want to give the quality of artifacts that we have here its proper display potential and interpretation potential. So it may take, a little longer than I want to, but I'd rather do it right than have to do it twice,
Sure.
So yeah, so that's the next stage. I hope to start construction probably this spring, and so we're moving along. So just please, I know everybody's like, can't wait to see it. And I've been really hoarding a lot of artifacts that we've obtained the last couple of years, and not really displaying them. I mean, we have some really wild things that are coming out, and JD
Yes.
has been teasing you guys a little bit with some of the What's New at the Artifacts shows that we've done. So we'll continue to do that. But there'll be some pretty wild stuff that's coming out. And, and last year, I wanted to say this, we were kind of reviewing last year. I had some health concerns last year, and it wasn't anything major. It was just like some post-COVID stuff that happened with my immune system. So I had a bunch of wonky little things going on, like ear infections and minor health things, but it set me back a little bit, whereas I wasn't operating on my full potential. Like I was having problems with sleeping and things like that because of these minor health problems. So knock wood, I've got those under control now, and they seem to have gone away, and my immune system is back to normal. I actually didn't get a cold on our last trip, which is really cool. Being around all those people in Belgium, shaking all these Europeans' hands. They have weird viruses over there and stuff. You almost always, or at least I almost always get sick when I'm around that many people for that long, living together. We had an Airbnb and then being on the airplane, but knock wood, I didn't get sick. So I think my immune system is back to where it should be. So I feel like I'm firing on all cylinders now. I feel great. I've been getting into a better workout routine. I actually work out now and, and have been for a while. And, it's just an old man workout. It's nothing like strenuous or anything, but, it makes you feel better. And when you do it every day, and I've been reading every day, I've been trying to get myself centered again. And I feel like in the last couple months, I've really gotten back. So I'll be able to like really dive into this a lot better than I did last year. Last year, I was a little off. So, and I apologize for that. But, and also the other thing, we've been developing our board of directors. We have that pretty much in place, but we've also brought on a new person on our advisory board who I'm very excited about. Her name is Victoria Sebal. I probably pronounced her last name wrong, Sebal. And she's an attorney who works with veterans, and she's amazing, and she's really into the project. And I like having lawyers around me. Most people know that. My dad was a lawyer, but the fact that she works with veterans, and I saw her working with the veterans that were on our trip, she really proved herself. So she's agreed to come on our advisory board. So I'm real excited about that. So it's very cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, one more thing, and then I'll let you guys go. Jared, you're the movie guy, and this spring in Gettysburg, we have a pretty big event that's coming up. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, the second week in May will be the third annual Gettysburg Film Festival, and the schedule is being developed as we speak. And I think there's some great surprises and guests that are in store, and I think visitors will really enjoy it. This year will be coinciding with the 80th anniversary of VE Day. In fact, the film festival actually overlaps with the literal anniversary of VE Day. And so the conversations will be heavily focused on World War II cinema and documentaries. So we'll see you there.
Yeah, all three of us will be there. I know Chris from Vlogging Through History is going to be there. And I don't know who else. It's an ever-growing thing that keeps developing. So I'm sure that, like at the museum and things like that, we're going to have some events that are going to be coinciding with that. So definitely be looking forward to that. Also, I just figured out or learned the other day that the film festival also crosses over with opening week of turkey season in Pennsylvania. So if anybody's watching and you know some people around Gettysburg who have a good chunk of ground, I'd like to bring a shotgun along with me and do some turkey hunting in the morning. Maybe blast one in the beak and we can have some fried turkey breast and then watch some World War II movies. So
I'm sure that can be arranged.
All right, cool. Well, hey, I'll let you guys go. Thanks for
one thing. I forgot to also announce, or not announce, but we have shows coming up. JD and Andy Biggio and I usually do the show of shows in Louisville, Kentucky, and that's in February. And Andy's going to bring a couple of vets. We're working on a couple. I talked to Jack Moran, and he wants to come if he can. And
awesome.
I think Andy wants to bring Jake Russo too. So from the 4th Infantry Division. So Jared, if you're not doing anything, you should come along.
Yeah, he just turned 100 a couple days ago.
That's right, he did. He had his 100th birthday. But the big thing, and I can't announce it yet because it's not 100% locked in, but I've been working on this for like 2 years. There's a huge veteran celebrity that I almost have locked in. I have a phone meeting with him tomorrow. And if I can pull this one off, it's going to be the best show of shows ever. It's going to be the best guest we ever had. So yeah, it's a big one. It's a real big one, but I don't want to drop it yet in case, something happens, but yeah, I'll know more tomorrow. So little teaser there. So if you're in Louisville, you should come out and see us there too.
All right, cool. All right. Well, hey, thanks guys. And yeah, have a happy new year.
Thank you so much. We'll see y'all in 2025.
Yep.
All right. See you.
Bye-bye.
All right, so there you go. There's Eric and Jared. If you enjoy the American Artifact series and some of the things that Eric shares with Gettysburg Museum of History, man, I would encourage you to donate or to buy from the web store there because all of that stuff goes to making the museum a better place and expanding it and keeping it free to the public. And also right along with that, man, Jared's channel, Real History, is just absolute gold. The crossover between cinema and history, like his channel is absolutely top notch. So be sure that you subscribe to his channel. All right, so moving on. Got a couple other faces that you might recognize here. We got Chris from Vlogging Through History.
Don't forget this guy.
And is that Ulysses S. Grant?
It is.
Awesome.
He wanted to join me for this one.
And the two kings of history reaction videos here.
Oh, now he's got to get
Vlogging Through History and Mr. Terry.
The only bobblehead I have here is Dante Culpepper, Minnesota Vikings. Skull.
How you guys doing?
Good. Doing real good.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you guys too. Chris, are you in your new house?
No, I'm still in the old one. It's just that everything's getting packed up. So
okay.
Including the green screen.
All right, cool.
Wait, that's the green screen?
No, that's without the green screen. This is what's normally behind me when I'm recording.
Oh.
All right. We got 6 questions, Lance, in the chat here, and he has given his approval of the Grant bobblehead. Good stuff. All right.
I have Theodore Roosevelt too, but he's already packed.
Now, Chris is pretty familiar with the channel. He's been on here a number of times. Mr. Terry, I think this is your debut appearance on the channel, isn't it?
It may be you've come on. It might be you've come onto mine so many times. Both you guys have, but I feel like we're always hanging out though.
Yeah. So for people who may not be familiar with your channel, give us a rundown of what kind of history content you roll out on your platform.
Sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm a high school history teacher. I teach world civilizations, as they call it. I guess they just call it world history now, and AP world history. And I started my channel at first to put lessons up there, and then got into the React side of things when it looked like it could be something kind of fun to do. And that's probably what most people know me for, is kind of the commentary videos. I do splash in some more, I guess, lighthearted, fun history original stuff. But yeah, most of you might know me from coming on the bigger mainstream history channels out there.
Okay. All right, cool. And you've branched out and have kind of a cool project that you've put together with a bunch of other history creators in the YouTube space. What have you got going on there?
Yep. So I had the idea of starting a history trivia game show. We are 3 episodes in right now. It's called History Showdown. It's been a ton of fun. If you guys have seen it so far, it's kind of learning through the process. It's a lot harder than it looks, especially in a community like ours where we have so many people who are so knowledgeable about the things. And boy, if I found out, if you get a question, if I have an answer wrong or anything mildly debatable, oh my gosh, it helps the engagement in the comment section. But holy cow, I did not expect that. But no, it's been so fun, and hoping to get these guys on in the next upcoming week. So
You're going
it's
down.
been a lot of fun.
You're going down.
Yeah, I want these 2 guys especially. They have a lot of similar areas. So
yeah. So originally I was supposed to be on the first show, and then that crossed over. It was going to be like the night before I left for Belgium for the 80th anniversary of the Battle of the Bulge. So he said, "Okay, we're going to boot you to another show and put you on that one." So at that one, I was like, "Oh crud, I'm going to be on there with Matt Beat. This is going to be terrible." And then I kind of went out of the frying pan into the fire. He sent me another message. He's like, "All right, I got you with Chris from Vlogging Through History now." I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to get smoked."
Some other lightweights, yeah, I'm sure, but it should be fun.
If
I want to mix the stuff that you guys know, but I want to mix the stuff that you guys know, but I want to hit you with some curveballs too.
Like World War II in the Pacific, and JD will smoke me in that category easily.
Well, not necessarily. Not necessarily. Here's what some people don't know about me is I do a lot of like academic binge and purge. So I'll like take in a whole bunch of information and then I'll go and shoot videos. But if I am just completely immersed in like the Battle of Antietam, I'll become an expert on that for about a month. And then when I move on to like the Battle of the Bulge or Guadalcanal or something like that, it like pushes out my Antietam information. And then, so it depends on what I'm doing at the time.
You reached your like capacity. Like for anything to enter now, something has to leave.
I know. Yeah. I've hit like max bandwidth. So Chris, you did some traveling this year. What would 2024 look like for you?
Oh gosh. Wow. Well, I mean, you and I spent a lot of that traveling together, but I mean, it started, where was I in the beginning? In the UK, and did some family history stuff that I did over on VTH Extra. And then we did probably my favorite trip of the year in April. I hosted a group trip to Italy, and that was fantastic. And, you think you grasp history, and then you go to a place like Rome, where after 3 days in Rome, you're walking past 2,000-year-old history, and you're not even paying attention to it because it's become so commonplace to you that it's not even a big deal anymore, that you just walk past another part of the Roman Forum and, that kind of stuff. And I'm going to Italy this weekend. And I've been wanting to get back since I was there, but that was fantastic. And then in September, so I know some of the guys you're going to have on later, we're on this trip too, but we were in Cambridge and got to do the Masters of the Air tour with some of the actors from Masters of the Air, and that was awesome. Going to a lot of those 8th Air Force sites of their bases and some of the museums there. Really, really cool stuff. So it was a pretty crazy year. And then I went to Ireland at the end of October, beginning of November. So
cool.
Oh wait, I completely forgot May. Where were we in May? You were there. Where did we go? Oh, Verdun and the Somme. Yeah, we were in not Verdun. We were in Ypres together.
Yeah,
that's right. We were in Belgium. I almost forgot that one.
Yeah. That was a good trip. I wish I could have
that up. Are you drinking the same thing?
No, I got regular zero.
Oh, okay. I thought you also had the Baja Blast. Okay.
Oh, cool. And then you've got like your travel schedule coming up is stupid. Like I'm not sure if you're going to be able to maintain your U.S. citizenship with the amount of time that you're going to be gone.
Here's the problem: is that my son is a senior next year in high school, and he's been playing soccer since he was 5, and this is like his last year of playing soccer. And so, from July through like early November, I don't want to be gone because I don't want to miss any of his games. This is the last chance, and I'm trying to squeeze all the last ditch parenting in that I can before he turns 18 in November. And so I'm squeezing all of my travel into the first half of the year. So going to Italy, this weekend, I'll be home for about a month, and then I'm taking my son to the UK to see 3 soccer matches, football to them, or as JD calls it, communist kickball. And then March is Egypt. I know you're having Sander on later. He's going with me to Egypt. April is Germany, Czechia, Slovakia, and Austria. And then that's and I'll be at shows in February. That's about it.
Are you going to be shooting content at all these places, or is it going to be?
Yeah, I'll be shooting content all those places. And I get back from Italy on the 12th, and I move on the 13th. So I'm also moving in the midst of all of this.
Okay, you're kind of sounding a little bit like Max Headroom right now.
Oh, really?
I don't know if that's on your end or my end.
Probably me. Is it okay now?
Sounds fine to me.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, maybe it's on my end though. Like I said, I've got this new internet that I'm running, and
it's the deer antlers.
Kind of, kind of goes up and down a little bit. So, Andrew, with you being an educator and everything, are your videos something that you utilize in the classroom as well, or is this something that just kind of runs parallel to?
It's pretty parallel. Like I do have a playlist of like my AP lessons and stuff like that, but they're dry, they're boring. No, I feel like you get the real IRL experience with me in the classroom. Now I will say that some of the stuff is the non-original stuff, a lot of the stuff I react to, I show that stuff for sure. I have units where I'll show some of the like oversimplified stuff and just use that because it is pretty fun that way. But no, I like to keep. I'm a different person in the classroom than I am out here. It's just like it's a different type of job, as a teacher. It's like you're the the students don't give a crap about like YouTube stuff. Like not what I do. Like okay, a handful maybe, but no, they want to watch lame stuff. Okay, because they're teenagers, so it's a little bit different. It goes back to that question when people ask me all the time, like, "Oh, do your students know about like your channel and stuff like that?" And I'm like, they don't care. Most of them do not care. They would. I'm their teacher first, so yep, it's a little bit different.
How long have you been teaching now?
I started in 2010, so graduate college 2009, and then
you guys are so young.
2010 there, so yeah, just turned 40, but so I've been teaching for about 14, 15 years now. So
okay, so like your teaching career has kind of bridged couple of different generations. Like you had the young millennials, and then probably the older Gen Z. And you can't, of course, draw just like a hard line, at any certain year. But what changes have you seen amongst the students from when you began until now?
The expansion of technology and social media has been a lot bigger since, I started. By this, we're at a place now in 2025 where these younger people that I'm getting, I teach mostly sophomores, so we're talking like 15, 16-year-olds. These are kids that have always grown up with that ease of access to, again, technology, social media. They grew up with an iPad, in their face pretty much. And so, like, educationally, things have changed quite a bit. I feel like when I started teaching, I was almost reaching the end of like the education that I had experienced as growing up. And then things have changed so much. And a huge pivotal moment in that any educator and anybody that's gone through school is also just the COVID era. Has changed our relationship with education
Yeah.
and students with education, with the online schooling and the way that us teachers have had to adapt.
Mhm.
And I do think we are in an interesting thing literally right now, where we're actually trying to push back against a lot of this in education. A lot of these things that we're finding out are not great that have been shifting, because there's a lot of things that are great about implementation of new technologies and new types of way to deliver content, but there's kind of an interesting movement happening right now of kind of reverting back to some of the older ways.
Yeah.
Getting back a little bit to like, okay, let's read, let's put the laptops and stuff away, let's look at a book, let's do some of these things that, I don't know, maybe we took for granted because we all grew up with it. We are seeing nationally right now things like banning of phones in schools.
Mhm.
That's happening all over. My school implemented it over the fall break. Okay,
Yeah.
you can, if you're like, and I'm in a high school, if a phone is seen during class time, it's immediately administrator comes, you put them on a list. There's like a thing, a digital thing we fill out real quick, and within a few minutes an administrator comes, takes it away. They can pick it up at the end of the day. If it happens a second time in the year, a parent has to come pick it up. We're seeing this kind of stuff all over the country right now.
Oh yeah, that's here in Ohio, same thing.
Yeah.
They have that same thing. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you, like, I think it's been fantastic
Yeah.
for me as a teacher. So much as a teacher of what I've, had to do is to manage like that. It's
Yeah.
also bringing in some interesting things as a teacher that I didn't experience the last few years, which was, the kids that get distracted easy and would normally just start bugging other people in the class. Now, in the last, I'd say 5 almost to 10 years, those kids, you should just kind of like get on their phone and not distract them, not distract others. Now I'm getting to this thing where it's like the kids that get distracted because they can't have phones and stuff out, they're back to like joking around with the kid next to them, and it's like it's like good and bad. It's like, hey, you kids are actually talking together now. You need to keep it down a little bit and get back to work, because it's more now easy to distract someone else and distract yourself.
Yeah.
But it is an interesting thing that is happening right now, and we're right in the middle of it.
Yeah. So
So-
it's interesting that you mentioned that. Like with the current crop of kids that I'm seeing right now, one thing that has surprised me is, like, if I try and show a video or do some kind of online activity or something like that, a lot of the feedback that I get from the students, that there's resistance to that.
Yep.
And they'll tell me, I actually learn better when you just stand up there and talk. Like teachers have been told for
Yeah.
years, they keep telling us, don't lecture, don't lecture, don't lecture. But the feedback that I keep hearing from students is, hey man, I'm learning stuff that I've never learned before.
So
and
I
they're
think there's a
actually getting
reason for
engaged.
that.
Yeah.
I'm a little older than you guys, but I think you probably had the same thing. When we were in school and the teacher wheeled in the big TV on the cart with the VCR, it was like, yeah, right? Because that was unusual. It was not the norm.
Yeah.
These kids are growing up with screens in front of them 24/7. Their whole life is the computer and the tablet and the phone. So now what's not the norm is to put that stuff away.
Yeah.
So to be interacting and to be, that's what's unusual. So I think that's why it's more effective, because it's not what they're used to, because they get numb to that stuff after so long.
Yep.
Well,
No, kids are not like that anymore. They're not like, when I'm like, all right, we're gonna watch this video. Now it's like, oh, all right.
Yeah.
Like and 10 years ago it was the opposite. It was just like within 10 years, it was the opposite. And I can totally the thing like JD you were saying about how the kids are learning that way. Like I can look at the difference of like, okay, if I have a substitute teacher and I have them watch a video or something, or have them do something else that's not me lecturing, and we do like a quiz or like a test on that, compared to when I just get up and teach, night and day difference. The kids don't they do terrible. If I am not up there speaking, it's so interesting to see that. So
yeah, it runs completely counter to what teachers are being told as far as like with professional development and things like that. Is that good? Is it bad? I don't know. But it's definitely a different crop of kids. And it also kind of goes parallel to, I was listening to a podcast just yesterday. What was it? I think it's Colin and Samir or something like that. But they were talking about how trends on YouTube now are shifting towards more long form content. For a long time, the thing on YouTube was, hey, it needs to be quick. Short videos, needs to have lots of jump cuts, and because people's attention is 3.5 seconds long, and now there's kind of a shift back in the other direction where people who watch this stuff closely are saying, hey, long form content is really kind of making a bit of a comeback here.
I don't know if you've had this experience, but I've had so many people who have asked me, like, if I have a series of videos, to do a compilation version where it's all in one. And so, for example, when I did my series, when I went to the Somme battlefield, and I had like 6 videos from the Somme that were each like 15 minutes long, they did okay. But when I put them all into one like 2-hour long video, that went nuts. It was the long version that was successful.
Yeah, it was like, what, 6 hours or something crazy. It was nuts.
I feel like there's kind of room for everything, because it's different audiences for sure, of that like that stuff. Because I find myself liking long form and short form. It's like a place and time for everything. Yeah,
I mean, it is from an educator standpoint. I definitely like short form. Something that, like, if I pop on a video in class, we were just talking about it. If you have something that's longer than 10 minutes, you kind of lost them. So in our day, when they wheeled in the TV from the library and popped in the VHS tape, I mean, you were locked in for an hour or so, on watching whatever that was. But yeah, there was some novelty to it. But anyway, yeah, it's all interesting to me to look at these changing trends and stuff like that. So any big plans for 2025 coming up for either one of you? Chris, you already talked a little bit about what you're doing.
Gosh, yeah, he's going all over the place. So no, I still coach. I am a soccer guy.
He coaches communist kickball, JD.
Yeah, communist kickball. So
man, I've tried to get into it. I just can't.
Basketball's wrapping up now. My soccer season will begin here in the spring. But other than that, I don't have a lot of other plans right now. I still want to try new projects with my channel. Again, I just want to try a whole bunch of new things. The old history game show thing was one idea, but I've got others as well. But I did like re-up my passport. I'm ready to like hit the road. So you guys, when you guys go to cool places now, I'm trying to get rid of some of my other extracurricular things, my other commitments, so I can start to do all the cool stuff that you guys also do, and get out in the world again.
Yeah, I tried to get him
a little bit.
Get him to Egypt, but being a teacher gets in the way of all that stuff.
Yeah, so being a teacher right in my soccer season, but that's like one of the bucket list things. Yeah. So like I want to be in on this.
Cool. Well, hey, come to Gettysburg with us in May.
So that
kind of stuff.
That'd be a good one.
Yeah,
I want to go with in May. Yes, see, this kind of stuff. I want to go with you guys to some of these cool places because you guys are the experts on that stuff.
Just don't go to Normandy on an anniversary. That's all I'm saying.
No,
just madhouse.
Madhouse. Yeah, absolute madhouse. So
good to know.
All right, cool. Well, hey, thank you guys for carving out some time and jumping in and chatting for a bit.
Thanks.
So,
yep. Thanks for having me. Happy
New Year, Happy New Year, everybody. Take care.
All right. So again, another couple great channels, Mr. Terry, history and vlogging through history. I forgot to mention, Chris doesn't have just vlogging through history. He also has stories of the Civil War, stories of the Great War. VTH Gaming, and I don't know, like 16 other channels. But all of the content for both of those guys is great. So be sure to check that out. So looking at the past year, as far as the content on my channel, I got to looking at it. It's, a lot of World War I content when we went to Arras, and the few episodes that I shot around the Ypres salient, looking at where like Hitler was awarded his Iron Cross, and also where he entered combat for the first time. So there's a lot of World War I content, a lot of World War II content, just by nature of some of the 80th anniversaries that were rolling around. And when I started looking back, I was like, holy crud, I have woefully fallen behind on my Civil War content. So that's something that I'm looking to balance out in 2025. But there are a couple other guys who have spent quite a bit of time on the Civil War battlefields. We got James from Project Past.
JD, how you doing?
Charlie from History with Waffles. How's it going, guys?
Good. How you doing?
Good. It's great to be here. Charlie, nice to formally meet you.
Hey, you as well.
Yeah. History with Waffles.
So have you guys not met before?
No.
Not in person, no.
Oh, okay.
I discovered his channel. He was on the Addressing Gettysburg podcast, the Thursday show.
Yes.
And I saw him on there, so I looked him up after that, and I've been following him since that. So it's been pretty cool. Nice to meet you, JD. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
I apologize in advance if your ratings plummet with having me on. So that's my disclaimer.
This has already been tagged as the Battle of the Beards.
The Battle of the Beards.
Well, I'm losing because I'm not supposed to grow one with my job, but I'm on vacation, so this is what I got.
Well,
so what is it
I started mine right after I got out of the service, so.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
I'm losing. It's okay. I admit that.
So looking back at 2024, James, I watched a video, and I think you saw the comment that I left on there the other day where you were at Missionary Ridge.
Yeah.
And man, I really appreciated that you went there and went to the Illinois marker there, because my great-great-grandpa was at Missionary Ridge with the 27th Illinois. Gave him a little bit of a shout out.
Yeah.
I don't think you knew it. He was actually wounded there.
I wish I would have known that, but when I went there, I didn't know that. But
yeah, he was he got wounded in the mouth.
Wow.
The story is that got handed down said hit with a mini ball, but I don't think that could be true. It was probably a shell fragment that hit him in the mouth, and took him out of the fight for a little bit, and then he got back in, around the march to Atlanta. But we were talking about beards. It's kind of funny. He, after the war, he had this really bad scar on his mouth, so he grew a beard out to hide it. And my great grandma, my grandma told me the story, but she said that her mother, when she was a baby, or not a baby, but like a young girl, he went ahead and shaved his beard, and it terrified her. So
Wow.
he grew the beard back and kept it for the rest of his life.
yeah.
Because of the wound that he had received, and how it, kind of sent his daughter into a little bit of a tailspin.
Yeah, it's amazing.
The scars of war. It's not a great thing.
Yeah. So I mean, you guys seem to focus more on the Civil War battlefields. Do you all have any ancestors who were in the Civil War?
Yes. My one of my great-great-grandfathers was in the Civil War with 29th North Carolina. So he was actually across the way there fighting your ancestor in Tennessee. And of course, I had some other ancestors that were fighting on the northern side as well, but they were also fighting out of North Carolina too. So the vast majority of them came out of North Carolina.
Okay. All right. Interesting.
And I do as well. I discovered it about a year and a half ago. And through Ancestry,
it gives you hints and things of that nature, and it can kind of lead you down the wrong path if you're not doing your due diligence.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, I saw it on my tree and, did my research, and then I went to my grandma. I was like, tell me about the Jordans in our family. She's like, oh, so and so is this and this. And it like kind of confirmed everything for me. So I told her, well, I kind of found out that we have an ancestor that served in the 80th New York. Now, at the beginning of the war, they went by the 20th New York State Militia, which was a title that they weren't happy with losing when they got kind of redesignated. But they were at Antietam, right in the cornfield, Gettysburg, right on McPherson's Ridge. They were just to the left of the copse of trees on the third day of Gettysburg.
Holy smoke.
And these are places that I've been to, and I had no idea.
Yeah.
So going back, I went back in the fall. I didn't do any recording of the regiment or anything like that, but just going to the spots, knowing that I was connected with it. It was a pretty cool experience. And I also did do an episode with someone had an ancestor in the 37th North Carolina who were assaulting in the general area of the angle. So it was kind of weird to, our ancestors were enemies, 160 years ago, but now we're walking the field as friends. It's pretty cool. And that's one of my favorite things about history is we're all connected to it in some form or fashion, whether it's Civil War, the space race, civil rights, World War II, we all have our own kind of story and connection. And I think that's what makes history so awesome.
Yeah, right. And I think that's what we try to do with these videos too, is kind of bring that personal connection to someone. When they see these videos, maybe they don't know whether or not they have an ancestor that's connected to those fields, just like he was saying. But having that personal feeling walking across those fields, understanding the service and the sacrifice that it takes to fight over those lands in the way that they did. It's just something else. It raises the hair up on your skin going across places like Antietam and Gettysburg and seeing those vast open lands. It's really something else.
Yeah.
So 29th North Carolina, where were they at?
So 29th North Carolina, they were with the Western Army, essentially, for the majority of the time. My ancestor that fought with him, he fought all the way up to Resaca. And then in Resaca, he bailed out. They caught him. They made him a prisoner of war. And then they mustered him back into the Army just in time for Mobile Bay. And then he took a bullet to the chest in Mobile Bay.
Survived or?
He survived.
Okay.
The wound that he took to the chest actually is what took him out later in life when he was older. He had a very bad pneumonia because of it. But yeah, he survived. He was there in Mobile Bay and was evacuated out of Mobile Bay when the Union Army came in and took over the bay.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, I had a similar experience with my ancestor from the 27th Illinois. I went to Kennesaw Mountain.
Oh yeah.
Shot a video there, went to the dead angle and saw the monument there and did a story and stuff like that. And then like I had known that I had a Civil War ancestor. I didn't know he was 27th Illinois. And on the way home, I think I'd posted something on Facebook about it or something like that. And my uncle reached out to me and he said, "Hey, you know that your great-great-grandpa was there, and the spot where the 27th Illinois assaulted the Heights was just like 50 yards off to the left of where I'd been filming the entire time." And I was like, "Oh, good grief!"
Wow.
Yeah.
So I was like me at Gettysburg. I walked by that monument, the 80th New York monument, dozens of times, paid no attention to it because I wasn't covering that. And to go back, knowing that you have that connection, you're like, I was so close. I was walking on the very ground that he was here. Yeah. I had no idea.
Yeah. I have aspirations one day of doing an entire series where I just follow my great-great-grandpa's path.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Like go Stones River and Chickamauga and Missionary Ridge and just kind of follow his path. I also have another, it's a 3 times great-grandpa on the other side of my family who was in the 10th Missouri Cavalry on the Union side. They pretty much just stayed around the Corinth area and were in skirmishes and guarding the lines. The biggest engagement that they were in was at Bryce's Crossroads, and they got their butts handed to them by Nathan Bedford Forrest. So I'm wanting to go there as well and check that out. I had a question. Hang on a second. I got to go back and find it.
Okay.
Somebody, where's that? Okay, I can't see it now. Somebody was just asking if I can put links to everyone's channels out when I finish. And yeah, the answer is yes. So when this finishes, the stream will go live, and in the description, I'll put a link to everybody's channel where you can go check it out and follow what's going on. So what do you guys got coming up for 2025? Any plans? Anything that's cooking right now? What do you guys got?
Well, for myself, I kind of have a New Year's resolution to cover new battles that I haven't covered yet. I have a few of them in particular. For example, Manassas. I've been to Manassas and I've taken a look at the battlefields and visited, but I've never really covered it for a video or anything like that. I want to go to Cedar Mountain. I want to end up in Winchester eventually. And then if I can't get my way out towards the mountainous area, the regions out in Kentucky and places like that, that would be really exciting to be able to cover that. And then of course I'm always back and forth to Gettysburg and Antietam and stuff like that. So a lot of good videos coming up.
Yeah, awesome.
Well, for me, actually, this Saturday, I'm going to be going to the Dade Massacre reenactment, which essentially kicked off the Second Seminole War here in Florida.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm going to be going to that. I want to do more of a documentary style about that instead of more of the traditional vlog, when we go to a field and the camera's pointing at us. And I want to make it a little more documentary style. So I'm going there to get a ton of B-roll of the reenactment. Hopefully maybe interview a few people associated with the reenactment. So I'll be doing that this Saturday. And then after that, I want to, I usually try to do what I call a spring offensive. Like last year I did Chickamauga, a massive 14-part series for me. So I want to do something similar, but maybe hit Shiloh. That's a battlefield that's kind of not really near major population areas. So when I go there, I want to, just beginning to end, just knock it out. I think Shiloh is definitely going to be on the list this year, and also maybe want to do Fredericksburg.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I would like this. That I know a lot of the battlefield isn't left, but just the first crossing under fire from when the I think it was the 7th Michigan maybe, but they were crossing the Rappahannock under fire. That was the first time that's been done. The urban combat, that element, neither army trained for that at that time. So just covering some of that, and of course the effect on the population, the civilian population caught in the middle of these two armies. I think that'll be something that I would really like to cover. I just wish, if we had 700 days in a year or 30 hours in a day, this way we can all cover these things. But
yeah,
those are my top 2 this year, I think.
Okay.
So
if you end up in Fredericksburg, let me know. I'm just down the street from there. So.
Oh, fantastic. Absolutely. I definitely need a tour guide because that area seems to be a little confusing.
Yeah, and there's absolutely a very large portion of that battlefield that still exists, and thanks to the American Battlefield Trust, there's even more that's been saved this year.
Yeah, is it the slaughter pen farm? Is that?
Yeah, they tore down an older house that was there. It wasn't dating back to the Civil War, but they've saved the vast majority of the slaughter pen farm, and that's a huge piece of land.
Yeah, they do some amazing work, and just back in the fall, was at a battlefield from a different war, at Guadalcanal. And you go there, the city of Honiara has consumed a large part of the battlefield there. It's paved over. So yeah, it really kind of puts an exclamation point behind the importance of the work that the American Battlefield Trust does. And you mentioned going to Shiloh. For people who haven't been to Shiloh, man, that is an amazing battlefield to visit. So I'd spent a lot of time at Gettysburg, obviously. Gettysburg Museum of History, spent a lot of time out there. Have both of you been to Shiloh before?
I've never been.
I've been several times.
Shiloh was a shock to my senses because you go there and it's kind of in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
There's no, tourist attractions around there. There are no hotels. They're not like when you go to Shiloh, it's because you are going to Shiloh.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
There's a catfish restaurant down the road. That's about it.
All right.
And it's good. So you'll have to check that out.
All right. It's JD approved.
Yeah.
Anywhere we can get bacon in that area.
Yeah. But it's an amazing battle. To me, it's kind of like Antietam, where you go to that battlefield, and I love Gettysburg and the monuments and all that stuff. So I don't want anybody to misunderstand me. But you go to Antietam and Shiloh, and it still feels kind of wild.
It is, and it's almost disorientating as well when you're there, taking a look at the maps and trying to piece the totality of that battle into this battlefield. From the start to the finish. It's not like taking your basic tour. You really have to get out on foot, go out on those trails, and track down the locations where all these men were fighting. This is an amazing battlefield.
Yeah, I'm
excited.
I think for me, I'm kind of on the same track as you guys, is wanting to maybe hit some places that don't get a whole lot of attention.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at possibly going to some places like in Missouri and Arkansas and hitting some of that Trans-Mississippi theater stuff, because I mean that's definitely a segment of the Civil War that certainly gets overlooked. You don't hear a whole lot about that. So that might translate to nobody watching it because nobody cares. But I want to at least give it a chance.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes
East
some of those
definitely gets the
overlooked
attention.
sites offer some of the best stories. There's a battlefield about an hour from me in Florida. It's called Alusty, and it's the bloodiest battle in Florida, the biggest battle as well. And we think about Gettysburg, think about the interpretation and just the preservation of Gettysburg, and it's kind of in a league of its own, especially the interpretation part. There's flank markers, monuments, everything. You go to Alusty, you have a nice battlefield trail, well maintained, and there's a couple signs, but it's up to you to figure out where the units were. There's no markers or anything like that.
Yeah.
And since I'm so close, I can read about it and walk the very ground I just read about. And through studying it and stuff like that, there's the 54th Massachusetts, a very well-known regiment in the Union Army, fought there, and not a lot of people know that. Yeah. There was it was a Union defeat, when they were bringing out their wounded, they loaded them up on a rail line, and the train broke down. Well, the men of the 54th literally pulled that train to safety with all those wounded soldiers on that. Like, little stories like that. Like, that's an incredible feat that no one knows about, or at least most people don't know about.
Wow.
So it's
would this have been after Fort Wagner?
Yeah, the same. It happened in 1864.
Okay.
So, and again, both sides had about 5,000 troops engaged. And when you look at the number of soldiers the Union had engaged with the number of casualties, it was one of the highest casualty rates for the Union of the war.
Wow.
It's a bit of a play on numbers because there's only 5,000 guys there, but the percentage of casualties they suffered was one of the highest of the war there. So it's like, oh, that's an hour from my house, and really no one knows about it.
No, I want to make sure that I heard you right. You said that they hitched themselves up to that train and pulled it?
Yeah, by hand.
Wow.
Of course, they had like horses and stuff, but the majority of the work was they're pulling a train full of wounded comrades to safety. And that's one of those stories that you don't really hear a whole lot about.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's the battlefield that actually got me into history and into the Civil War. That was my first Civil War battlefield, Alusty.
That's cool. That's literally an hour from my house. I'm in St. Augustine.
Cool. Well, you guys are making me want to go there now.
Well, St. Augustine's great.
I know a tour guide. I know you don't do heat, but it's beautiful now.
After a week in Guadalcanal, I don't think that there's any heat that will ever be worse than that.
Perfect.
All right, cool. Well, hey, appreciate you guys jumping on. And again, for anybody watching, especially if you're into Civil War content, History with Waffles and Project Past are great channels. And you guys are, I mean, just on a personal note, you guys are overwhelmingly generous with the things that you say online and suggesting videos on my channel and stuff like that. And I really do. I do appreciate you guys.
Yeah, I appreciate everything you do, watching my videos, commenting, we're all one community, just trying to spread some history. And, it was a pleasure. Thanks for having me on. And Waffles, nice to meet you. I'll definitely be reaching out when I'm in the Virginia area next time. So
Absolutely, James, and just hit me up. I'll patch my number and my email to you.
yeah, absolutely. Again, thank you guys. Happy New Year, and let's learn more stuff.
All right.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Happy New Year.
See ya.
Bye.
All right, cool. Again, two great channels, guys who are hitting some cool Civil War battlefields. And like I said, I'm going to do a little bit better at trying to hit some Civil War content in the coming year. All right, so we got a heavy hitter on deck now in the history creator community on YouTube. The one and the only Mr. Beat. How's it going, man?
Hey, good. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can hear you just fine. So you, if I'm not mistaken, 2024, didn't you cross the 1 million subscriber mark?
I did.
You
Yeah,
did.
like back in May. That was really cool.
I see that big beautiful plaque hanging in the background there.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
it right there. It's a beaut. It's
That's
huge.
awesome. So you're kind of one of the as far as history content, as far as I know, you're kind of one of the originals who, at least to my knowledge, that started putting content out and creating on YouTube. How long have you been at this now?
Oh yeah, no, I've been making history videos since 2009. My first career was in broadcast journalism. Like I worked in TV and radio. So, but I always, always loved history. But then I went back to school to become a teacher, a history teacher like yourself. And that's when I was like, oh, let's make these videos for fun for my students. And I didn't really ever think they would be seen by anyone outside of the classroom. But yeah, like when I started publishing, like making my videos public, the dude, I got to give a shout out to him. The dude who was like the only one doing it at the time was Keith Hughes. You know Keith Hughes?
No, I don't.
Hip Hughes is also used to be his channel name. A shout out to Keith because he is the pioneer, the first one to really like actively just consistently post good quality history videos on YouTube. It was cool. I
feel ashamed of myself for not knowing this channel.
Oh man, yeah. He taught social studies for many years up in Buffalo, New York, and we've met. Well, we didn't meet in person, but we've collaborated over the years. Yeah.
Okay. So is he still active putting out content? And
not so much, unfortunately. Like he sometimes comes back, but yeah, like I think he probably got burnt out or something. I don't know.
Okay.
Not me though. I've been going like since 2011. I guess I'm kind of crazy. Yeah.
So I on your channel, it's kind of a cool blend for people who aren't familiar. I mean, my gosh, he's got over 1 million subscribers. So if you don't know who Mr. Beat is now, well, now you do. But it's kind of a cool blend of like studio content, and then you kind of go out in the field and things like that. But you like took going out into the field to the next level this year. Was it Malaysia?
Yeah.
You went to?
Yeah.
Tell me about that trip, because I watched the video. I'm interested in hearing more about that trip.
Yeah, I was invited by this channel called the Nomad Capitalist. It's also an organization that helps expats if they want to relocate around the world and work remotely. And so, yeah, I guess the guy who kind of runs that organization, Andrew, he likes my political history videos. And so he invited me out there. He's like, yeah, I'll fly you around the world. And so I flew out to Malaysia with my wife. We filmed an episode of Live Like a King for his channel. And then I just filmed my own content while I was there. Like I think the thing I just kept thinking about while I was over there was the fact that there were so many things that were not really that different from the United States. And like just the whole globalization phenomenon and just internationalism. There's so many people from different parts of the world that all ended up in that country. Yeah.
What is attracting people to Malaysia, as far as you know?
Yeah, not just Malaysia, but all of Southeast Asia. I've noticed that it's very open to business. Like there are fewer hurdles if you want to start your own business, and so a lot of people immigrate there. And also, people invest a lot, and there's a young workforce, and it's just an exciting, dynamic place. Thailand gets a lot of attention too. I had a friend that lived there for a while. Vietnam, even, like, if you go to Vietnam now compared to even 30 years ago, it's just dramatically different. It's really an exciting part of the world.
Interesting. Did you go up in the Petronas Towers while you were there?
We didn't go up. We were just at the bottom staring up at them, but they pretty iconic. Yeah.
Okay. What struck you? I mean, so you say there's a lot of similarities with the Western world. Was there anything that struck you as being like different, that like some cool cultural things where you're like, oh, okay, this is different, but I like this?
Yeah, no, I mean, overall, the culture there, I think, seems to be a little bit more just humble compared to the United States. Like, we're very loud as Americans and very, like, individualistic as well. Like, we forget how just Asia overall is just way more about just community, like doing things for the greater good, I guess. And so because of that, there seems to be a little bit more humility. Hey, thanks for subscribing, Lisa. I see you. That's awesome. But yeah, also, like, another surprise was the fact that, I mean, there's kind of the stereotype for Muslim majority countries. It's a Muslim majority country, but like, I saw people holding hands on the street that were same-sex couples. That's something that I never expected to see in a Muslim majority country, so stuff like that was different.
I was actually having this conversation with somebody. It was with my brother-in-law last night at our New Year's thing, and we were talking about how in any culture or religion, it's not a monolith, that there's variations wherever you go. So people think Islam or Muslim, they have like one idea of what it looks like in their head. And I've talked to several buddies who were in Iraq and in Afghanistan, and they've told me about how different a Muslim individual in Afghanistan is from a Muslim individual in Iraq. And of course, even in Iraq, there's a lot of variations. It's one of the things that you kind of benefit from, with travel and with people who are sharing their experiences. You get to learn these new things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I love watching those channels too, where they just go to different countries. Like, there's this channel called Indigo Traveler where he just kind of goes where no one else goes. Like, you always think of the touristy places, like Dubai or something, but no, he'll go to Baghdad, just hang out in Baghdad for a few days. And actually, that's how I learned that Baghdad isn't so crazy anymore. It's way better there than it was just even a few short years ago. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It's cool.
Is he American?
No, I think he is British, I believe. I'm really bad with accents, so
Sure.
I don't know.
Okay. All right. Interesting. So, hey, if anybody has questions as we go along, I'll remind you, just shoot them over in the chat here. But what books do you recommend, or maybe what are you reading right now that you're liking?
Well, I'm planning on a video about why we fall for con artists. And so
okay.
I've been fascinated with this. And so it's right here. Actually, I just checked it out. It's called Hype by Gabrielle Bluestone. I had never heard of her before, but this was recommended to me through algorithms, I think. But yeah, so I'm doing a bunch of videos about kind of not just, contemporary stuff, but like historically, why people believe certain things. And, kind of, I think there's a lot of, a lot of people's minds right now, like how we consume information today versus how we consumed information in the past. Like, I always tell people there's a lot of similarities with the times we're living in right now. My viewers get sick of me saying this, but like the 1890s with yellow journalism back then and stuff like that, how You know, we're going through now where like a lot of people are falling for AI, for example.
Yeah.
You know, like people fell for, we've always fallen for misinformation as long as there's been information. So
I will count myself in that crowd. There have been times
all of us
where I've even reposted stuff, and then somebody will call me out on it and they're like, dude, that's not real. That was an AI generated image, or it's this, that. And I'm just like, gosh dang it, they got me.
It happens.
So stupid.
No, it happens to all of us, like myself included. I can't just pretend like I'm above it. I'm not. So that's another reason why I'm fascinated by it.
Yeah. And you talk about like, journalism and how nasty it can be. And journalism it's going through a weird change right now.
Yeah.
But I've gone back and looked at newspaper archives, and holy cow, some of the things that they were writing about, like political opponents and stuff like that in print, was wild. That even by today's standards, I'm like, oh dude, that feels like it's crossing a line of some kind.
That's why I just did a video about the Supreme Court case near v. Minnesota, about they just made up lies all the time, and they got away with it for the most part until they started attacking powerful people, and then that's when they started getting sued for defamation. Yeah. But it's all protected. You'd be surprised, so much is still protected unless you can prove that you are doing significant, and I stress that word, significant damage to the person that you are making claims about. You can usually get away with a lot. It's kind of crazy.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Another thing people talk about, the partisan nature of journalism today, where you have like an MSNBC more left wing versus a Fox News more right wing. Another thing that I found interesting when I haven't dove into it as much as you have, is that there used to be like newspapers in the 1840s, 1850s, and you had, this paper was for this political party and this paper was for this political party. They occupied the same space in a city, and kind of were competing for eyeballs even then. Just kind of going on. History changes, but human nature doesn't.
Another reason why we love to learn this stuff, because we really haven't changed that much. And I don't study the antiquities period very often. I usually stick to the last 200 years or so when I look at history. But
yeah,
I think sometimes we underestimate how smart people were thousands of years ago. I think they were smarter than most of us give them credit for.
Hey, if somebody gave you a chisel and a hammer and said, go build me a pyramid,
yeah.
like those people were brilliant, who built those structures.
It's just that we just don't know about how brilliant they were. And, if we go through ebbs and flows and ups and downs we just assume that right now we are at the peak of human achievement and intelligence. But I don't know, and even comparing, I've been really looking a lot at 100 years ago or 125 years ago, that period, the progressive era, and I read some of this stuff and I'm just like, dang, this is so profound and, refreshing. It's weird to say something as refreshing that was written a long time ago.
Yeah, very, very much so. And you talk about how we're the most advanced civilization that has ever existed. That doesn't equate to being the most intelligent. You take a rotary phone and put it in front of a 12-year-old kid today and say, here, call a number.
Yeah.
A lot of them would be incapable. And, the same thing with you and I, if, we had to, I don't know, do some kind of mechanical thing that would have been easy for somebody in the 1920s. They would probably look at us as like we were uneducated fools.
The question then remains, how quickly would we figure it out? I think
exactly.
Yeah, that's like the true test of intelligence is like how can you learn something new that you never encountered before?
Yeah, exactly. You mentioned a Supreme Court case there just a moment ago, and you'll have to forgive me if I'm off on the time. Did your Supreme Court book come out in 2024, or was that a little bit earlier?
It came out last year, 2023. Yeah.
Okay, that was in 2023.
Yeah, we just didn't. We didn't really promote it much until this year, though, so I can understand why you'd be confused on that.
Okay.
Like I had a big event in the summer at a local bookstore here in town where I live, and that was kind of. I felt like the book kind of got some new life once that event happened. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe if you wouldn't mind, tell us a little bit about your book.
I don't mind at all promoting my own stuff. Here's another book. Yeah, it's called The Power of Our Supreme Court, and it's by this dude named Matt Beat, who I think that's me. But anyway, I just took 100 Supreme Court cases that I thought were the most important that every American should know about. But the most important thing is I translate legalese, so I make it as easy to understand as possible for everyone. One of the things that really annoys me about historians and lawyers is that they sound pretentious all the time with their big words, and a lot of this stuff is really these are just stories about real people. Most of the main plaintiffs are just ordinary Americans who just kind of thrust into the spotlight, and so that's why I've always loved to learn about the Supreme Court.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you raise a good point there, and that probably extends to YouTube as well, as far as the history creator space it's packaged in a way that is digestible to people, to where it's easy to understand, and what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe more accessible.
Yeah.
And everything. So, I mean, just kind of circling back to the first question that I asked, talking about, the length of time that you've invested in creating history content on YouTube. What are some of the changes that you've seen as far as history content that in that time?
So many changes. I think that the quality of history videos on YouTube in particular, but also other platforms like TikTok and even Twitch, have improved dramatically, to a point now where I go back and watch my old videos that actually did pretty well, and I'm embarrassed that they did so well, because I'm seeing smaller subscribers like the two gentlemen that you just had on before me. I was checking them out as I was waiting, and I was like, holy crap, this is great. I can't believe I hadn't heard of these guys. This is amazing. And they both have less than 10,000 subscribers. Go subscribe to them. They're amazing.
Yeah.
I just feel that, there's never been a better time to learn history, as far as I'm concerned, because of all the great content on here.
Yeah. I mean, it's become a digital encyclopedia, and there's so many different creators who are filling a different niche. So we had Jared from Real History on earlier, who is attacking history at an angle from through the lens of cinema. You have you're doing the stuff in studio and hitting like really, really interesting topics. By the way, your live stream the other day, for people who aren't familiar with Matt's channel, go watch his most recent live stream where he ranked the craziest decades in American history.
That was so fun.
That was fun, and it was amazing, because whether you realize it or not, you can watch that video and you can get a pretty good survey of American history from about 30,000 feet just watching that.
Yeah, another great way to trick people into learning American history.
Yeah, I disagreed that you didn't put the 1940s as an S tier.
Yeah, of course you don't. Yeah, World War II, man. I will say that if you are new to my channel, I do mostly focus on political history. That's kind of, I'm just most passionate about that. I'm trying to get better about branching out more. Like, I know you're more focused on military history and stuff, but you branch out too a lot. And so I just feel though, like when you learn history, like when you're actually, most of us are taught history that way, where it's all political history. And I think the reason why is because it's a quicker way to learn other parts of history that I mean, let's face it, people in power kind of shape how the direction history goes. And, you can't ignore the people in power.
Yeah.
Sadly, though, like, I'm the president's guy too. I have videos about and songs about all the presidents. And it's just like, okay, well, maybe we're not getting a diverse range of opinions by only looking at the presidents, but
Yeah, absolutely. All right, cool, man. Well, hey, thanks for jumping on and hanging out for a little bit, and also I'll add to that, man. I appreciate how you're a giant channel with a huge following, and I admire how you do what you just did, where you say, hey, here's a channel that has 10,000 subscribers, go subscribe to this channel. They're great. I've seen you do that multiple times, and I think that's admirable.
Well, you do the same. Hey, and I gotta give you credit too, because once I discovered your channel a couple years ago, like, you've inspired me more and more to get out of my house and explore these actual sites where, like, this past year I went to the Mason-Dixon line at the border of Pennsylvania and West
that was a great video.
Yeah, I like that video. May have not happened if it weren't for you. This coming up summer, I'm going to Virginia for like a month, and I'm going to go to Monticello. I'm going to go to Montpelier, James Madison's estate. James Monroe's estate. Like, I'm going to try to knock out all these videos by just going to, because there's so much in Virginia. I'm so jealous of Virginia.
I hate every Virginian just for how accessible so much history is too. I'm so jealous.
Yes, and it's beautiful too. But yeah. So hey, maybe I'll have a meetup or something but
I was just getting ready to suggest that. We've talked about linking up at some point. So we make that happen.
Oh, and I might be. Oh, I was going to tell you. I haven't told you this yet. I might be going to, that D-Day reenactment they do in Northern Ohio.
Yes. At Conneaut.
Yes, that's it. I'm glad you remember the name. I am looking at going there. It's in August, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, and I might even like dress up. I'm thinking about dressing up and becoming a reenactor myself.
Oh, that'd be awesome,
guys. Yeah, like we'll see.
All right, cool. Well, maybe we'll have to link up then.
Definitely.
All right. Well, cool. Hey, man, I appreciate all the work that you do, and thanks for hanging out for a little bit.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks for having me on. Happy 2025.
All right. See you, bud.
Bye.
All right. So again, that's one of the originals right there. I think of everyone who is popping onto the channel today, Matt's channel is the largest and has been in it for the longest period of time. He's a great guy. Now, if you've watched some of the history traveler videos, especially in Eep and maybe a few other places, well, these guys might be familiar to you. Got Marcel from the channel History War Cinema and Rob from History in Your Hand. A little later in the day, out where you guys are at. How's it going?
Good. Happy New Year. Thanks for
Happy New Year
for
to
having
you
us
too.
on.
Yeah, absolutely. So Marcel, I think this is the first time you've been on like one of the live streams or anything like that. Yes. And you've popped on the channel a few times.
Here and there,
yeah. I think the one that I can remember off the top of my head was in the video about the Christmas truce.
Yes.
Birch's
Garden.
Yeah. Birch's Garden as well. Yeah. Nice. I remember at the Christmas truce, I asked you if you and your fellow Dutch Marines ever played soccer with the Taliban in Afghanistan, and I think that was a negative.
Yes.
So, hey, for people who may be unfamiliar with your channel, tell us a little bit about what you've got going on in your channel.
Well, after Mr. Beat, who is the longest, I'm the shortest running channel probably. of the guys on. I've just started in, I think, last April, 9 months ago, and I do reactions to movies and TV shows that are focused on history, and also make a lot of stuff, a lot of videos on site of where these movies took place, and also some original content.
It looks like you have no shortage of material behind you there.
Yes. I always have something to watch, always.
So, like, one of your first videos was at Henri Chappelle, right? As far as like your on-site videos?
Yeah, that was the very first one. Yeah.
It's because when
that one blew up, that was crazy.
Yeah, when I saw that video, I was so frustrated with myself because I was at Henri Chappelle as well. I've got a video from there from a while back, and I felt so ashamed of the work that I did after watching your treatment of it. I was like, well, that was I did a terrible job compared to that. So yeah, people watching this, if you go to History War Cinema and go back to like one of those first videos, you can kind of get an introduction into the channel as far as the content that you'll see on there, as well as the reaction videos. Like, you've had a real long running series looking at some of the old BBC World War I documentaries.
Yeah, the Great War.
Yeah, which has been really interesting to kind of see, even though it was, when was that made?
1964.
64?
Yeah.
It's interesting to see how they were interpreting the war, at that period of time, even though it's obviously 1964 and it's dated. I mean, I've loved that you have kind of brought that to the surface and have made it available.
Yeah, it's a great series. The interviews with the veterans, of course, are in there as well. Those are priceless because those veterans are all gone.
Yeah.
So we need to watch those kinds of shows to see those interviews. But I'm almost at the end. YouTube is giving me a very hard time with these videos for some reason, but I'm gonna keep uploading them. So
yeah, absolutely. I'm glad that you do, because it's good stuff. So, Rob, what if we're looking back at 2024? What did things look like for you? Because you did some traveling around to some pretty unique places.
Yeah, I really did. Yeah, it was great, actually, and you know what, I think probably the best part of the year was being able to get out to some sites with you guys. We I mean, all three of us and a few of the other guys who you've had on or are having on were out there in Ypres together, and that was great. It was there's something which is just it's just real nice about kind of the sort of collaboration that's been created in the sort of history YouTube community, which I love and I'm very grateful for, because it's been hugely helpful to me. And you guys saw you talking with Matt, with Mr. Beat just now about, sort of larger channels helping smaller channels, and you know what, yourself and Chris have done that loads with myself and Marcel, and it's been great. So my highlight was probably that trip when we headed out to Ypres. I made the most of it. I was doing a few bits, a couple of days either side of when we were all together, but I think in 7 days I managed to record something like 20 videos. So I made the best of that trip.
Yeah, and also it kind of got to doing some stuff in the home country as well.
That was really good, because I mean, obviously, we have no shortage of history around us here in the UK, and of course we have history that goes back way beyond anything I've talked about on my channel so far. In fact, you've touched on it a little bit. You got some of the Roman sites in, of course, when you were over here. But even just so I decided I wanted to do some stuff on the Battle of Britain, and I started to look into like where can I visit a few sites, and within 2 minutes on Google I realized, there's I could probably visit 10 sites here, and it just kind of made me have that. I mean, I knew it was there, obviously, but it made me just have that reset about, there is so much I could make videos on right here in the UK. And so for me, 2025 is definitely going to include a fair few UK-based videos, as well as some more stuff in Europe as well. Definitely.
Yeah. Awesome. Marcel, you got any, like you just got back from Belgium as well for 80th.
Yeah.
We saw each other for about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And then
Literally 10 minutes. Yeah.
What
in the Boisjacques.
Yes. What have you got coming up? Or any aspirations or plans for 2025?
Well, I'm going on another We Happy Few 506 tour at the end of January. Rob is going as well. So probably shoot some content around that trip as well. And me and Rob are going to another part of Belgium to shoot some stuff. So you're talking with the guys earlier about the Gettysburg Film Festival. I'm going to go there as well. And going to DC before that. So I have a lot of plans for shooting videos on those locations as well.
Is this going to be your first time in the US?
No. I've been several times already,
Okay,
but
okay.
Yeah, DC is my first time, so it's going to be pretty excited about that. Yeah.
Okay, and haven't been to Gettysburg either.
No.
Okay.
No, first time. Yeah. So
Okay.
Can't wait to see Eric's museum.
Yes, there's a lot to see there.
Yeah. So I'm there for 5 days, so I can pop in and out whenever I want.
Yeah, for sure. So the We Happy Few 506 tour that you're talking about, what is that? What's going on with that?
Well, this one is centered around Masters of the Air.
Okay.
I think for one day, right, Rob? I think the second day we're gonna head into Germany. I don't know the full schedule, but it's Masters of the Air. We've got a couple of actors coming along for Masters of the Air.
Yeah,
And,
it's based. We're based out of Liège, I think, aren't we? And it's going to be a lot of it is going to be around the piece that they featured a whole bit of it in the series. But the plane Alice from Dallas, which it went down, and then you had the two guys who evaded capture, and the resistance helped smuggle that. There you go, Escape and Invasion Tour. Chris has got the name for us. That's the one. So I think I think we're visiting the crash site of Alice from Dallas, which will be really interesting. That'll be good.
Right. Yeah, there's going to be an unveiling of a memorial for the crew that was
yes,
killed
of
there.
course. Yeah.
Oh.
They have been raising money to finance that memorial, and we're gonna it's gonna be unveiled during the tour that weekend. So that's gonna be pretty cool.
All right.
We have Soy Spielberg, the son of, he's coming along, and I think he played one of the pilots of Alice from Dallas.
Yeah, he was in the series. Of course, I mean, you guys would know that stuff a little bit more than me.
Yeah, he portrayed Roy Claytor, was it?
Roy Claytor.
Yeah.
I think he was one of the pilots of Alice from Dallas. I'm not sure, but I think he was.
I think he was. Yeah, I think he was he was either the pilot or the co-pilot of Alice from Dallas.
One of those.
Yeah.
Okay, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Apple is running some kind of thing.
This weekend. Yeah,
where they are. It's like a free trial or something like that. Where
the entire weekend is free.
If anyone didn't see Masters of the Air, you can go on and check it out now.
Yeah, it's well worth getting. You can how many episodes are there? 9. You could definitely binge watch those in 2 days if you got the time.
yeah, for sure. Where do you all rank the? What is your viewpoint of Masters of the Air? I mean, there's a wide range of opinions. Where do you guys fall as far as? It's effectiveness at like history entertainment.
I think the first couple of episodes that were the best. I think episode number 3, episode number 5, those were the best episode for me. I think towards the end it got a little bit rushed. They brought the Tuskegee Airmen in, and I think their appearance was a bit rushed. So I think maybe they deserve a separate series of their own. That would be cool.
Yeah.
But overall, I really liked it. It's not Band of Brothers material for me, but Band of Brothers is like 23 years old, so that had a lot of time to grow on you. And
sure.
So I think Masters of the Air is going to be better and better over the coming years.
I remember talking to Matt Leach, of course, who was in Band of Brothers, and we kind of look back on Band of Brothers with rose-colored glasses now, and it's an amazing series. But he said it was, when it first came out, it was kind of a slow burn. Like it didn't just light the world on fire when it first came out. And I would imagine that most people probably saw it the way that I saw it, which is when it came out on DVD. And because I mean, I didn't see it. I didn't have HBO. I was a broke college kid, so I couldn't get any of those premium channels or anything.
Yeah, it was the same with the Pacific for me. When I first saw it, I didn't really like it because you compare it to Band of Brothers, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But then I watched it a couple of more times over the years, and it's really grown on me. It's really, really well made series. So
yeah, very much so.
Yeah,
I love the Pacific. Yeah, I think that's one. I think I mean, if you're going to pick the best of the three, you might 9 times out of 10 you're going to lean towards Band of Brothers, right? But there is a lot about the Pacific which I really enjoy. I think it's you could tell they deliberately tried to sort of focus on the kind of the nitty gritty and the sort of horrors of what those guys went through on those islands, and they really did that well. I thought the kind of feeling and the sort of emotion you can feel watching that series, and you come away from watching each episode thinking, how did those guys get through that stuff? And with that aspect of it, I think they probably did a better job with that than Band of Brothers. But but Band of Brothers, I loved, and Master of the Air I loved as well. I thought it was great, and it's one of those series where there's been a load of people who say they love it. There's been a few people who I know have picked at a couple of the historical bits, but it's like you just said, there are some big historical errors in Band of Brothers, but we just kind of forgive that because it's Band of Brothers, let it slide. And so but that's not what we watch those series for, right? Not fully anyway. Of course we watch them because we love the history, but we're not watching them because they're history documentaries. We're watching them because they're great entertainment, right?
Right, exactly. So Rob, do you have anything coming up long range for the channel?
Yeah, I've got a couple of bits. So I'm going to be I'm forever back to the Somme, but I'm going to be going back to the Somme battlefields in June. So I'm going to be over there doing a couple of little bits, and I've got a few videos which I'm planning there. I'm on the trip in January that Marcel mentioned, and I'm going to do some other Great War, World War One Belgium-based stuff. So up there, kind of probably through sort of the Mons area, and maybe up as far as that north coast, kind of around sort of the Newport area, the end of the front line or the start of the front line, depending on how you look at it, where the trenches literally ran into the beach and stopped at the sea. So
that'd be cool.
Going to go up there.
That'll be cool. And I loved your videos at Luz, just because that's a chunk of the Western Front that really doesn't get touched.
Yeah, I loved making those. I'd stopped off at a couple of spots in Luz before, sort of just on my way through, but I'd never gone and spent like a full 2 days just in that area. I loved it. I loved all the research. So whenever I make these videos, obviously I have to do a load of research before to learn a few extra bits. I'd like to think I know some, but I don't know nearly as much as I need to sometimes before I go and make a video. And I loved the research of all of that because, like you said, it's a battle that's not hugely known, and researching it and learning more about it was great. I love learning new topics. So
that's one of the things that I love most about having a YouTube channel is it puts me in a position where I'm constantly learning new things.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right, cool. Well, hey, thank you guys for jumping on, and
thanks for having us.
I've been seeing people over in the sidebar or in the chat talking about they just went and subscribed to your channels, so that's great.
That's appreciated.
So for those of you who are doing that, man, I appreciate it, and I know Rob and Marcel do as well. So anyway,
definitely,
for sure.
All right, see you guys later.
Thank you. Bye, cheers, guys. Thanks a lot. See you later.
All right, cool. So so Rob, if you're into the history of the Great War, and we spent a little bit of time on that with Aras earlier this year. His channel is great, and again Marcel, another really good channel that is hitting history from a little bit different angle. You get it from a little bit different perspective. Now, I mentioned earlier that in 2024, it was a little World War II centric. So I spent quite a bit of time walking the World War II battlegrounds, and there are a lot of different channels who do an outstanding job with World War II history. But there, like anything else, you can only have one that is the best. And anytime people ask about World War II content, I tell them that the absolute best source on YouTube for World War II history is with this guy right here, Paul Woodage, World War II TV. How's it going, man?
I'm good. Happy New Year. How are you?
Yeah, Happy New Year to you as well. You have been an anticipated guest. I've had people over I've been seeing in the chat. They were concerned that they had jumped on too late and had missed
me.
Paul Woodage. Yes.
No, unfortunately, you haven't. Their planning has worked perfectly, and that I'm still here. Yeah. No, it's good to speak to you, JD.
Yeah, you too, man. So you did a little bit of venturing out from Normandy, I saw, and I haven't had a chance to talk to you about it. Didn't you recently go to like Berlin? Is that right?
Finished in Berlin. Yeah, we did tell me about 8 days over to Krakow, Auschwitz, Wrocław, Zargan, so Stalag 3, Colditz, and then Berlin, and then back to Normandy. So yeah, a bit of a whirlwind trip, but yeah, no, pretty good.
Okay, cool. What was that one other place that you mentioned? You said Auschwitz and Krakow, and then
Auschwitz, Wrocław, which was Breslau. The German name is Breslau.
Oh, okay.
It was to kind of break up the journey from Krakow to Zargan, really. Otherwise, it would be like a 7-hour drive in Polish and German traffic, which is another subject. But yeah.
So what kind of stuff? I mean, as far as like highlights of the trip, what are some things that you saw?
I was going with one of my Irish mates, David Duffy, who runs a circus, and that he's very, very busy in the season because he runs a circus, and like me, he grew up with that whole prisoner of war camp mystique that we Brits and the Irish grow up with, Colditz and Great Escape and the Stalags and all that kind of stuff. So it was to go to Stalag 3 and Steve McQueen and all that kind of stuff was just one of those trips I've been wanting to do all my life and finally got to go to. And Colditz Castle was exactly the same thing, since playing the board game, watching the TV series. So I can't believe it took me 55 years to get there, but that was the main thing. And then, of course, you can't go to Poland without doing Auschwitz and acknowledging the concentration camp. And I went to the same place that you did, just south of Krakow, the Armongoth camp.
Plaszow or Plaszow.
Yeah, Plaszow, which was interesting to say the least. And that whole thing about doing Holocaust visits as part of a holiday, that whole weird paradoxical disconnect of okay, so we've done some Holocaust now, shall we go and have lunch now? And that whole mood shift that you have to deal with. But it's important to do, and for someone like myself, and who makes money from World War II, it's easy to focus on kind of the cool stuff, but sometimes you have to put yourself through the crap stuff, the shitty stuff, and remind yourself just what it was all about. And all those discussions about what people's favorite tank is actually paled into insignificance compared to the death toll of the many millions. Sorry to be Mr. Buzzkill on New Year's Day here. Woody's come on and reminded everybody people die in wars. But they do, though, folks. That's the thing.
Plaszow was a weird experience for me. I'd been to Dachau. So prior to going to Krakow or Krakow, however you want to pronounce it, the only concentration camp I'd been to was Dachau. So I kind of had a little bit of a preconceived notion of what it's going to look like, how it's going to feel. And then you get there and there's walking trails, and this is the place that's depicted in Schindler's List, and there's people out there, and you're like, oh, okay, here's the apple plots where Amon Gert would shoot people from his balcony, and then there's somebody walking their dog right next to you, and there's an apartment complex right on the concentration camp grounds. That was a weird experience for me.
It was, and yet weirdly, I kind of connected in a bit more profound way with that location than I did Auschwitz itself, I think. Because
Really?
Auschwitz, for anybody who hasn't been to Auschwitz, it is so busy. So many people go there, which is an amazing thing that so many people go to pay their tribute there. But I'm not going to say you're rushed, but it's overwhelming just how many people are going through it. And there really isn't much time, I found, to kind of just stop and kind of have a sort of a sensory appreciation of it. Whereas at Plaszow, I kind of had that moment because there was 4 of us walking around, but we weren't like tightly together. We'd go and read our own things and walk around there. And so I had, because I went there the day after Auschwitz. So actually I was using that site to kind of process what I'd been at Auschwitz, so that it worked well as a sort of double whammy. You know, the intensity of Auschwitz, where you're with following tour groups at a real pace, and then the slow down thing, and we were, as our group of 4, we were able to have more conversations there about that. As you were saying, is it okay that this is a place where people walk their dogs and go jogging, and we were able to have some quite complex discussions there, which at Auschwitz we didn't really get time to do there because of the speed with which you do things. So our Auschwitz debrief, we did it in the evening at the restaurant, which was a bit odd, you know, sitting in Krakow Square with kind of horses and carriages going past and people kind of having a cool evening, and we're trying to debrief about Auschwitz whilst drinking cocktails. That whole disconnect. But as you were saying with your other guests, that's the thing about YouTube, is that you can dive into history very quickly and then dive out immediately and go work or have dinner or have, and that's the kind of world we live in. That instant tonal shift of the way we live our lives is that we're, I guess we're used to that, I suppose, 21st century folks, aren't we?
Yeah, very similar experience that I recently had. So my wife and I, we had our it was our 20th anniversary this year.
Oh, happy anniversary!
Thank you. So for the 20th anniversary, she's always wanted to go to the German Christmas markets. So we went, you know, from city to city through Bavaria, going to the German Christmas markets, and then of course she's married to me, so we're going to go to some history sites and shoot some content and stuff like that. So we're going to Christmas markets at night, and then we go to Dachau, and then we go to another Christmas market, and then Flossenburg. And Flossenburg was an interesting one too, because we were the only ones there. So yeah, for anybody who ever travels to Europe at some point and goes to some of the concentration camps, which I think everyone should, I would encourage you, go to one of there's Dachau and Auschwitz, but I would also encourage you to go to one of the lesser known sites well, because it's a little bit more of a quiet, personal experience where, just as you said, you have some time to process it on site.
I have a feeling I want to go to Sobibor. Well, no one wants to go to Sobibor, but I should go to Sobibor. I think the first Holocaust memoir I read was of a Sobibor person. So I think that's always been in the back of my mind. And I've got friends who've been there, and that is much more you're sort of the middle of a forest monument and a handful of people visiting. Whereas Auschwitz gets 2 to 4 million people a year, apparently, is what our guide told us. Wow. Which is really amazing. And obviously they never knew 40, 50 years ago it was going to rise to be that kind of numbers, you know, and people I spoke to who visited it 30 years ago, it was more like perhaps I was expecting it to be. Even though I knew with the booking process, I knew you had to book to a certain time, and it was difficult to get certain English speaking tours, but I was still really, really surprised by just how busy it was. And we were there in November. I can only imagine what it's like, you know, in the summer when people are theoretically traveling more. But hey, you know.
Sure. So this spring, I mean, we're kind of coming to the end of the 80th anniversary commemorations. I'm assuming that you probably have some things lined up on your channel that are going to be running parallel to some of those last days of the
I
war.
try to. It's always a bit tricky. Just getting everybody's schedules together. I kind of jokingly look back on the COVID lockdown era fondly. No disrespect to people who lost their lives, because people were available. Historians would have nothing to do. And they're available. People, of course, they've got book launches and tours and work and teaching assignments. So sometimes I have the idea of saying, okay, I'll do an Italy week, acknowledging the 80th anniversary of what was happening in Italy, but people just aren't available that particular week. So I have to sort of spread people's appearances out. So yes, I will be doing 80th anniversary stuff. And trying to, I missed so many 80th anniversaries in 2024, but I've got a bit more of a fighting chance in 2025, because obviously victory in Europe finishes in May and Pacific in August. So I've got less targets to achieve.
Sure.
So I will be trying to do that, but I'm looking forward to beyond August, when I don't have I don't want to say the restrictions of the 80th anniversaries. I like doing content that ties up with anniversary, but I can go back to more kind of broad theme weeks, like War in the Jungle week, or PTSD week, or neutrality week. So more all-encompassing themes that don't have to be restricted by a certain year or battle or nation. So, but there's always an ongoing challenge working with people's schedules and trying to get things together, and that's the difficulty. But it's not a difficulty, it's the constraints I put myself under. If working, I only do content with guests, so I have to therefore work with the guests via availability, whereas you just bugger off somewhere with your camera and create your own content at your own time, which is fantastic. But I have to work with other people's schedules, and time zones. I get so many requests for panel discussions, which I love panel discussions. But if you're dealing with different time zones, I want to do one on the 80th anniversary so I'd be going back to 1941 and 42, in fact, of Malaya. But I want a guest from Hong Kong to be on. I want John McManus in the States to be on, and I want someone in the UK to be on. So someone's going to have to be going on at stupid o'clock. There's no, someone's going to have to come at 3 a.m. So those kind of things are tricky. But,
So I was actually thinking about you as I was putting this together. Okay, so this is a pretty informal thing, just people coming in and out. But I've got my time zone. There's the Eastern time zone. There's British time zone, and then your time zone. And dude, juggling that alone and trying to figure it all out. I thought, how in the world does Paul do this? This is nuts. Because I've had some people on today that the three of us have been in 3 different time zones. I'm like, okay, I'm in the Central time zone. You're in Britain, so you're on tea time. You're in the Netherlands. You're on tulip time. So the fact that you are able to do what you do and you pull it off so well is amazing to me.
India's the worst, where they have the half-hour one. Right now in India, it's midnight and 32 there, so it's half. You have a half an hour, so that just does my head in. My brain goes, no. The reason I do history is I was crap at maths. That I don't have to do. So that one just completely messes with my head. That one I just I
didn't even know that existed. I didn't know they had half-hour zones.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
It just makes my brain hurt. It's the when we can all agree that when we on the same and don't I as a YouTuber want this bloody daylight savings hours to be scrapped with because and if we are going to do it, at least have it consistent from country to country. At least we all change globally on the same day. But no, there's about 3 weeks difference between where the countries change over. So that
just for this, on my other computer, I brought up a website and I can look over at it right now. It's got like 5 or 6 different time zones so that I can look over and see what time it is in each one.
So, but hey, it's all good. Keeps me busy. Keeps my brain occupied. It's the crosswords, isn't it? It's just it keeps the gray matter working.
we were talking about anniversaries and things like that earlier. I haven't told you yet, but so my mom and dad, they are going to be celebrating their 50th anniversary in 2025. They got married in May, and as far as kids, it's just me and my brother. So we don't have any sisters or anything. So my brother contacted me, and he said, "Hey, mom and dad's 50th anniversary is coming up." He said, "Do you want to do a big 50th anniversary party for them?" And I said, "Not really, but I think we have to." And he said, "I don't want to
there again.
He said, "Hey, let's see if we can just take them on a trip instead of doing the whole party thing, so we don't have to plan that out." So anyway, we're going to be coming to one of the places that my dad wants to go is Normandy. So we're going to be coming to see you all in early summer.
I'm gradually meeting the Hewitt family one by one, am I?
Oh, you're going to get the whole
you
bunch of us. My wife, my wife is going to be there. My brother, all three of my kids. You're going to get the whole experience. We were talking earlier with Jared Frederick about how we are kind of in a transition period as far as how we are interpreting history and commemorating it and things like that, because the World War II generation is about gone. Andrew Biggio, the guy with the rifle, I just got back from Belgium with him, and he said, "This is it." He said, "This is the last one." We brought 5 veterans along with us, and the baby was 99 years old, the young guy. So how do you see the way that we, commemorate these events and the way that we teach about them on the ground? How is that going to change? Because you got more experience than
I mean, it's really fascinating. I mean, one of the people I know, one of my friends who's been trying to start this conversation, in fact, years ago, was Helen Patton, the general's granddaughter. In that, we've got to transition between veterans being at events and veterans not being events. And she wanted to kind of have the discussion starting 10 years ago, including, in fact, veterans in the conversation, to kind of gauge how they thought it should go after their passing. But no one really wanted to have the conversation because it was an admission that the era is going to come to an end. And it's that, and I struggle with the recent anniversaries, because my memory of attending anniversaries back 20 years ago and beyond that, I was at the 45th and the 50th and the 55th, is that of sitting with veterans in bars drinking. They weren't that much older then than I am now, in a weird kind of way. And now they are in the wheelchair bound era, which is great and fantastic to talk to them. But I've struggled to transition to that. And I'm struggling again to transition to the fact that they won't be around. And people admire me for my sometimes honesty, candor. And I think that we'll have to be careful with the last few veterans to not necessarily treat everything they say as being absolutely perfect, because we've obviously wanted to get their memories down. We've obviously wanted to get their interviews on camera and people speak to them. And you've done some work like that. I've done some work like that, but not at the expense of cross-checking, not at the expense of double checking all the details. And I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. In that the children of veterans are going to be speaking for the veterans, which can be brilliant if they've done their research, but can also be less than good if they've mixed up things over the years. I did a call-in show this time of year last year for Radio 5 in Britain, and I thought rather arrogantly that they were going to be interviewing me at some point during an hour, but I was actually co-hosting with the presenter, and then people were calling in, just members of the public in Britain, this is, to talk about the forthcoming D-Day anniversary. And people were calling in with what their late father or mother or grandfather did, and it was wrong. I mean, completely, utterly wrong. There was a core truth that they remembered. There was one particular person who called in, Dad was on a boat off Saw Beach that was dive bombed 17 times by Stukas, and then he was diverted to another beach, ended up going to Burma or something, and he's going, And then the presenter said to me, and what do you think about these kind of amazing live interactions with people talking about their fathers? And I'm having to be, careful. Well, it's good that we're hearing these stories, but we have to do the cross-checking. We have to double check that these things are right. So I think the cynic in me is saying we're in for a rough ride these next few years of sort of unsolicited, unedited accounts by people who were there, passed on by people who haven't. I mean, Jared Frederick, who you had on earlier, is one of those people who's done that work to take what people said and put and Eric Dorr, our mutual friend Eric, you put it through the mangle of truth, which is just expression I just invented right now in my head. But you do that to squeeze out the family legend, squeeze out the things that have been added to the story over the telling of it over the years, and then at the end you get that core story that is absolutely worth hearing and sharing, but making sure it's got that historical rigor. So I worry about the next few years. I worry about the transition era. I worry about people doing speeches at events without necessarily having done their groundwork. But that's just mid-age grumpy me. That's just it's my problem, not yours, JD.
No, you're absolutely right.
You're a bit younger.
I can't tell you how many people I've talked to who have said, "Oh yeah, my grandpa was in World War II and landed at Omaha Beach on D-Day."
Yeah.
And I'll get talking to them and they'll show me a picture and I'll look at the patch on their shoulder and, well, he landed at Omaha Beach, but
absolutely,
it was in August as a replacement.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which brilliant. I mean, and the man went through and fought hard and did his part. But there's that mystique about, being there in the first wave on, Dog Green on D-Day. And you mentioned the veterans as well. I think that's probably one of the biggest misconceptions that people have is that if a veteran said it, it happened. And it's gospel. I interviewed shortly before he passed away, Brad Freeman, who was the last surviving member of Easy Company, Band of Brothers. People are familiar with. And I've never done anything with the footage. I'm just got it sitting on a hard drive right over here. The fact is that me, you, everybody, as we advance in age, our memory is going to slip a little bit. And in his interview, he was talking about going to Paris and seeing the Leaning Tower. When, he meant to say the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah.
Yeah. He'd say, Dick and I went and we saw that Leaning Tower, that they talk about and everything like that. So it's little things like that. And then people were like, oh, well, he said it, so it has to be true. He was there, you weren't.
Yeah. I mean, Rob, History in Our Hand just said, you mustn't assume everything they say is correct. But at the same time, I always think with veterans, their emotional honesty is usually correct. If they say they were terrified, then they were terrified. They may have got the week wrong. They may have got the battle wrong. They may have misremembered who the enemy was they were facing. But if they said they were in a foxhole being shelled and it was terrifying, that I believe 100%. Or if they say something about how much they benefited from the support of their comrades, all that is honest stuff. Or the memory of bombers falling around, or the memories of climbing down a cargo net off a ship onto Omaha Beach, that's going to be true, but the date may not be. And so that's the interesting thing. I mean, in Britain, going back to the veteran thing, with our last Great War veteran, our last proper Somme veteran, who did all the rounds, was a very, very well-spoken guy. But he was very much of the we should never have gone to war. He kind of played the sort of the pacifist card, which is fine, but it came to represent the views of all that generation when it was in fact the view of him and some of that generation. And there are as many First World War veterans who looked back in a weird way fondly on the First World War because they had decent food and they had decent footwear and they came out of it with a sense of purpose and a pride. And so we have to be careful when you get to the last spokesman about anything. The last YouTuber standing, for example, will have carte blanche to say whatever they want when all the others have gone. I'm joking about that, but it is that sort of sense that just because you're the last one of anything doesn't necessarily mean that your opinion about something is any more valid or more true than the people who passed away a generation or two earlier. So we have to be a bit careful. So I kind of worry about that. But in some ways, going back to your original question, because I did kind of go down a rabbit hole there to get my World War II TV catchphrase in while I had the chance to, is that I'm actually looking forward in some ways to the commemorations in Normandy, perhaps in 10 years' time, when there won't be the expectation of there being veterans there. I think some of the crowds will drop off a bit. I think the people who just want to attend to get a glimpse of a veteran, perhaps they won't come anymore, and there'll be more of a kind of an honesty about it. I mean, I quite liked the Normandy commemorations in the COVID era because people were still, the towns were still going out and putting the wreaths out. The towns were still having their ceremonies and their 2-minute silence. And it's just that there weren't the public there. And there was something actually quite nice about that, to just witness the people from the village who had a vested interest in that commemoration, honoring the people who fell in their village without all that the lenses on them, without all the tour buses and all that. So I have hope that in 10 years time, Normandy, the Ardennes, when we're dealing with the 90ths and the 100ths, that they'll be better, because I don't like. I'll let you go in a minute. I don't like that whole thing that the World War II were the greatest generation. They were a great generation, don't get me wrong. But I don't like the idea of us believing that as a species we've peaked. I don't like to think that that's it now. Your kids, my stepkids, that they can't achieve something great in the future. Right. So no, don't worry, lad. Don't even try, because the World War II did, guys and girls, they did the best. You can't ever measure up to them. Because the World War II veterans I met would not have spoken that way. They believe they did what they did for the people that came next, to do something better with the world. Maybe perhaps sort out the problems of the world without going to war and killing millions of people, as noble as the cause was.
Almost every single veteran that I ever interviewed said it was a job.
Yeah.
It was a job that had to be done, and we did it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that you're probably right. After the 80th, I think it's probably going to, go on the decline. We'll probably see another peak at the 100th in 20 years, and then where it goes from there.
They'll be talking to crusty old tour guys like me for the 100th. They'll ask, did you meet some of the people? I go, yes, I met some of the men themselves and the women. Yes, and weird.
They will be talking to you and I the way that I talk to Paul Reed about his experiences with World War I veterans.
Yeah,
where I'm asking him, "Hey, tell me the stories of the guys you met." Yeah,
good point.
So, I don't know. It's going to be interesting, but all right. Well, hey man, I appreciate you taking the time to dodge in here, and appreciate even more the hard work that you do on your channel, because
thank you very much.
You are providing an amazing historical record that people are going to have to rely on. Just the way that you have brought together the best and the brightest in the World War II history space is admirable.
Well, I try, and thank you for bringing all these creators together today, because it's an amazing thing. Someone should have done it, and you were the one who picked up the mantle there. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thanks, man.
Okay. Cheers then. Thanks. Bye.
So again, I'll just reiterate, man, that if you're not subscribed to World War II TV, you should correct that as soon as possible, because it is an absolutely amazing channel. In any kind of history, but especially World War II history, there's like these big topics that get hit, and then to be honest, get recycled, and I'm part of that. Paul's channel really does a great job at filling in the gaps. And my dad has a saying, you don't know what you don't know. And that's kind of how I feel when I'm watching that channel. There's so much that we don't know. And he's done a great job bringing all these people together. Now, when I started getting into YouTube a little while back now, started like exploring different channels. One of the first channels that I came upon was this Dutch guy who was wandering around the battlefields with a metal detector and pulling some of the coolest stuff out of the ground that you can possibly imagine. And I was so envious of it. And he's been on the channel before, but it's been a while. Got
It's
on
been
mic.
too long.
How's it going, man?
Hi, JD.
Haven't talked to you in a while.
Yeah, we haven't spoken for a while. I think the last time was during COVID. You were bored to death sitting in your your office. So you were stuck in the US and you couldn't travel. And I think
Yeah.
that it was in 2020. I think.
Oh man, that has been a while. That shows you
Yeah.
how fast time goes. Holy
Yeah.
smokes, man.
I think so because I was limited to travel, and we usually go to Germany, Belgium, France, and for metal detecting, and we were stuck in the Netherlands as well.
Yeah.
We snuck across the border a couple of times, allegedly. Took some different routes, and it's sometimes difficult to see if it's the Netherlands or Germany, especially in the villages. So we did some tours then, and. But yeah, I think it was 2020. Yeah.
It's kind of weird that in some sense it doesn't feel like that was that long ago,
Yeah,
but at
true.
the same time, it is 5 years ago that
Yeah,
all
it's
of
been
that
a
was
long
happening.
time, and the fun thing back then was I remember that I had like 40,000 subscribers, and you were into the 80s or a little bit around 100, and well, you done well the last few years. You and rightfully so, I must say. So
Complete
I enjoy
accident.
it.
It's nothing that I had planned or anything.
No, you surely deserve that. I know how much time and effort you put into the channel. I see that, and I can hardly cope with all the videos you upload, and you have great content. So it's rightfully so. It should be more even. So
Oh, well, I appreciate that. I feel the same way about yours. You've been some pretty cool places in 2024. Like you got like way up north in
yeah,
some of your
yeah.
detecting.
Yeah, we went in 2023 to a place very high up north, which is basically we can see the Russian border from there, high up north in Norway, I must say.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know we were that close to the Russian border. But yeah, we were there, and this year we went a little bit more south. Where we met up with a guy called Viking Jan. He's a good friend of mine.
Okay.
He became a good friend of mine, and yeah, we metal detected some awesome spots there, including a place where the German U-boats were stationed and maintained during the war. They were sent out towards the Atlantic Ocean and also towards the American coast to shoot down or to bomb or should I say torpedo
Yeah.
the transport ships. And this was situated among some very high mountains in the fjords, and so bomber planes couldn't hit them, and it was actually a very hidden place to maintain the U-boat. So it was a cool place. Yeah, yeah, we
The
found some
scenery in
stuff.
those videos was
They were
phenomenal.
beautiful. Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
yeah. You
I
should
was
come one time. It's just for videoing. It's just so beautiful there for recording. Um, and I
well,
couldn't even show it all because the thing is, and you know that if you've seen the videos, the thing is that if we code there, sometimes we have a permission, and
yeah,
not to ruin the permission, we don't want to, put out all the information about the spot, so other people
sure.
might come there, and we have had that a couple of times now, and although I do want to show everything, it's hard to do that, keeping the permission safe. So,
Yeah.
but it sure was beautiful. Yeah, yeah.
So some of the stuff that you're pulling out of the ground up there in Norway was that used as kind of I don't know, for lack of a better term, like a rest and refit area for soldiers coming off of the Eastern Front? Because you found some
Um,
stuff there, if I remember right.
yeah, yeah. Well, it was we searched some different areas there, including some Atlantic Wall bunker sites.
Mhm.
Um, as you know, and as your viewers know, the Atlantic Wall went all the way from up north to Norway, all the way south to Spain. It's a massive project, and
Yeah.
every feet or every couple of 100 meters, there's a bunker, and a lot of Germans positioning or manning those bunkers. Uh, a lot of them were East Front vets. They may have lose a limb or an eye, or they weren't capable for battle duty, but they could just sit in the bunker and watch the ocean and see if the Allies would try something. So we did find a lot of Eastern Front stuff on the Atlantic Wall sites. But yeah, that must mean that it was a veteran that was sitting there and was just dropped his medal or whatever. Yeah.
He's probably much happier too. Being
Yeah,
off the
he
Eastern
probably
Front.
had a good end to the war. Yeah, it was much better than sitting on the Eastern Front.
When you go up there,
Mm.
do like the locals or the people there have like a pretty good connection with the history of the Second World War in their particular area, or is it kind
Yeah,
of like, there's a bunker there, who cares?
yeah, the last thing. They don't care much about it.
Okay.
The younger generation starts to gain some more interest in it. But the people there are, they don't care much about it, and they don't care much about the history of it, and so it's easy to get permission there because people are like, oh, sure, you go ahead, that junk, just take the junk with you, and
Yeah.
I don't want anything to do with it. So yeah, they're not interested at all in that.
Wow. So yeah, if anybody has questions as we're talking, yeah, feel free to ask. Here's one question. Um, Weather up there. What time of year were you up there? I can't remember.
I was there because, especially because it's so high up north, it tends to get, especially in winter, very cold and dark. Right now, they don't have any daylight at all, so
Yeah.
it's like a half an hour daylight, and it starts to get a little bit longer during the year now. And the fun thing, it's in the summer, it's other way around. You have 24 hours of light,
Mhm.
which is good, so you can keep on metal detecting as long as you have energy in your knees. Um, but we've been talking about that at all because a lot because the finds there are very good, very well preserved. If you
Yeah.
find something with paint on it, it's still there. It hardly ever rusts.
Um,
It's probably because of the cold and because of the rocky soil that's there, so the
okay.
water just drains down it. But the fact it's there's a massive amount of snow half a year. I think it helps to preserve the finds. We come there usually around June and September. Those are the best times to come
Okay.
there. And last year we were there. Last week, I think it was there in September. Yeah, the beginning of September I was there. I shot a couple of videos there.
Okay. As far as like, here's one question: the largest thing that you found. Have you detected like a Mark IV tank yet or anything like that?
No, that's on my wish list though. Like a big Panther 4 or something.
Something
No,
that
no.
just
I
fell in a
think the
bog and has been there since
Yeah.
1945.
Oh wow, that would be great. Or a big mortar, complete mortar installation. No, we
Yeah.
haven't find that. Usually the biggest things we find are helmets and gas mask canisters and
Okay.
of course the weaponry. That's what we find too. Um, but
What are the laws in some of the different countries? Like if you pull an MG42 out of the ground.
Yeah, you can. It depends on where you are at, but usually you have a problem because in Europe we have very strict gun laws, so
Mhm.
it's hard to move around with that stuff. And it's a blessing and a curse to find that because on the one hand you really want to bring that home, want
Yeah.
to put it on your wall, and um, well, on the other hand, it's just simply illegal here to even in that state, usually to carry around guns and ammunition.
Wow. From an American point of view, that is so
I
bizarre.
know, I
Yeah.
know, I know, and yeah, I have a friend that works at the because in Germany, especially we're talking about Germany now.
Yeah.
In Germany, you have there are so many things in the ground that there is no bomb squad that's led by the government. These are all commercial businesses that go out and get the bombs out of the ground, and they get paid by the government. So a friend of mine works there, and as soon as we find something, I call him, and he takes care of it.
Okay.
It's a win-win situation because the landowner gets rid of the bombs for free. My friend who works at the bomb squad can send the bill to the government, and everybody's happy. So, and I'm happy because I can show it on the video.
Yeah.
But I'll also give him the guns because he knows how to deal with them, and probably end up, I don't want to say this out loud because I'm going to break a lot of hearts here, but it's probably going to get destroyed or
Yeah.
by the government. Yeah.
Man. That
I know. So it's a blessing and a curse finding a gun because we need to do something with it. We need to bring it or tip my friend, but we really don't want to bring it because as soon as you get caught with a thing in your back of your car, you have a problem.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
sometimes it's a bit of a problem. Yeah.
Yeah. So Lisa's saying still finding bombs and mines in Germany. Yeah, Lisa, here's one thing that a lot of, especially Americans, don't know is that for the civilians, the war didn't completely end in 1945, and they are still living with the effects of it today.
Yeah.
I went to Guadalcanal in the fall, and dude, there's stuff you wouldn't have to bring your metal detector.
No.
There's stuff just laying everywhere. Like I was finding, M1 Garand clips and shrapnel and Japanese helmets, in various states of decay, just laying around everywhere. But along with that, it's also pretty dangerous. Like on Saipan, I found a live grenade there. And then, there's mortars and artillery and stuff that's unexploded ordnance. There on Guadalcanal, they had, there's 2 or 3 people who were killed just within the past couple of years. They were just going and out in the woods, and they started a little cook fire. And just the worst possible luck ever. They started their cook fire, and right below it was, like a 105 millimeter mortar shell, and it cooked it off, and I think killed 2 of them. So,
which is sad, yeah. And the sad thing is, especially there, they don't have a lot of money probably to get rid of it because it costs a lot of money. It's dangerous work, specialized work.
Yeah.
And in Germany and especially around the Berlin area, if you and that's where these companies where I was just talking about, one of my friends works there, comes in. If you want to put let's say you have a piece of land and you want to build a shed, and you have to put a couple of poles in the ground to build that. As soon as you put a pole in the ground, you need to call one of these guys to empty out that lot to make sure that you are certified that there's nothing in the ground before you start building.
Wow.
Which probably was, that law they came up with because a lot of people probably during building came up with a lot of material, a lot of unexploded ordinances, and so it's pretty common here in Europe to find bombs and grenades, and especially during renovations and stuff. A lot of things could pop up.
Yeah. Well, I'll let you go here in a second. What you got anything lined up for 2025 on the wish list of where you're going to go?
Actually, 2 days ago, I booked some tickets for Latvia. First time for me there in the Courland pocket. You probably heard of that.
Yes.
I'm seeing a similar dude, mad of World War II history like us. He's metal detecting as well, and he's agreed to take me on an adventure for a couple of days. So we'll be heading there in March when the snow melts. The Germans were cut off for like a year or half a year there in the Courland Pocket. It's interesting. If you'd never heard of it, go check it out. It's very interesting
Yeah.
to read about that.
I just it's in the mail right now, but I just got from a guy. It's a half of an SS helmet that was recovered just across the Latvian border in Russia,
Right.
and sent me
Right.
pictures of in the field and stuff like that. I've got something pretty cool that I'm going to do with
It's
it.
for you. It's gonna be in your collection.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
wow, cool.
Yeah,
Cool.
I've got a couple ideas of something that I'm wanting to do with it. Make like a little display. So, but yeah.
And talking about your collection, I want to add something to your collection. Again, we've been talking for a couple of years back, and I know you've been supporting my channel and trying to push my channel into finally getting finally getting to the 100,000 subscribers. I know you've been pushing your you've been pushing my channel to in your video. So again, okay, give me an extra minute, okay? I need to tell you that because a couple of years back, I met one of my patrons. His name is Jim.
Yes. Yes.
But he's your patron as well. I know
Yes.
that. And he brought me 2 of these. And I don't know if you've seen the videos, but I've been wearing these shirts for a long time now, and it's a token of my appreciation to you and to your channel for to supporting my channel. But also these shirts are very good. I enjoy them very much, and all these viewers here, if you didn't forget to buy a Christmas present for your mom or dad, order one of these because they're great shirts.
Oh, cool.
But I also want to send you something for your collection, and I have it right here. And I've been meaning to send this out to you for a long time. And actually, the latest events in America, the election events triggered that. But I thought I have to do it right now because Trump is soon to be inaugurated. A friend of mine lives in the Market Garden area. His name is Rene.
Okay.
You can find him the Dutch Relic Diggers. I need to give
Oh
him a
yeah,
shout
yeah,
out
yeah.
here because he found a grenade in the Market Garden area, and he was first wanted to call the bomb squad, and then he thought, no, this is a different grenade. This is not a normal grenade, but this is a propaganda grenade. And in it was a roll of flyers, which the Germans shot from their position towards the American position.
Yeah.
Back in 1944. And also back in 1944, there was an election going on. And you know that. I don't have to tell you
Yeah.
that. So the Germans sent one of these flyers out. It says, vote for Roosevelt. How do I pronounce it? So they obviously wanted the American forces to vote Democrat. It says, be a patriot, vote Democrat.
That is amazing.
And it has all these fun things
before.
on it. It says, in 1933, FDR promised prosperity, and now it's over 12 million unemployed, social bankruptcy. It's all these fun little facts that was supposed to get in the hands of U.S. soldiers that had to vote. So if you're okay with that, I want to send one of these out to you.
Oh man, I would love that. Thank you.
These are pretty rare. He found a lot of them, but in general, they're pretty rare. It's just fun to have one of these, and especially now with the election and all. I thought, well, the Germans, the Nazi Germany wanted to have them vote Democrat. I don't know why. You tell me, okay? I don't know why that is.
So I've seen a lot of those propaganda leaflets. I've never seen that one though. That is cool as heck.
No, I've never seen it too. It's and we tried to look it up, but we failed doing that. So it's probably very rare.
Yeah.
Again, it's something that needs to be in the hands of an American, especially now with all the elections and the emotional elections you have had last few months.
It's a little wild over here sometimes.
So after. We'll trade. If you send me your post box number, I'll be sure to send this out to you. And,
oh man, I appreciate that more than you know.
Collection. No problem.
All right.
No problem.
Cool. Well, hey, and on top of that, man, I appreciate the work that you do on your YouTube channel. It's so good.
Likewise,
it's one of my favorites.
I enjoy watching your channel. So thank you so much for having me on the channel.
Yeah.
And endorsing the channel. And appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, cool. Well, thanks, man.
And let's not wait for another 5 years, okay?
Exactly. Hey, we need to get together out on the battlefield. That's what we need
sure
to do.
Yeah. If you're ever in the Berlin area, let me know. We can see if we can do something there.
Yeah, let's make it happen.
All right. Hey, thanks so much for your time.
All right, see you, man. All right, cool. So again, as far as like, there's a lot of metal detecting channels out there. There's a lot that I subscribe to and watch. Mike's is one of probably my favorite of the metal detecting channels. He's sending me that propaganda leaflet, so he's definitely my favorite now. That thing is cool as heck. All right. So next up, one of the big changes that the channel has had in 2024 is we started implementing kind of a new element in especially the battlefield videos. Started bringing in some animated maps, and as far as feedback on the channel, I've probably received more feedback about the animated maps than anything else, which, since I don't do them, I can brag on them. They have added so much to the channel and to the production and to helping people to understand the history. And the man behind the animated maps on the channel, little Sander here, the channel Sander VK History. And we also have somebody whose channel you aren't familiar with because he doesn't have a YouTube channel, but he's cool guy, Sean. So Sean is what part of Britain are you from?
So I live in the southwest in a little town called Exmouth. So it's just south of Exeter, which you probably, Exeter's more commonly known in my area, but I'm like 20 minutes south of that.
Okay. All right, cool. So I don't know if you've seen Sean on my channel, but he has been a presence behind the scenes when we go on these group trips. Sean's a big history guy, adds a lot of expertise as far as his input and just kind of making sense of the battlefield. And he also whips up a heck of a good breakfast.
Definitely.
Famous for that breakfast.
Famous for the breakfast, yeah.
I think I made breakfast once and then it was my job.
when we were in Ypres, as a matter of fact, it was on the episode where I go to the Christmas Truce Memorial. Because I am incapable of ever just like relaxing and enjoying myself. If there's daylight, I want to be out working and doing stuff and everything like that. So I got out before everyone else. And then we were going to meet back together at the Christmas Memorial. And I hadn't ate anything. And I'll be dadgum, Sean gets out of the car and has a bacon sandwich for me. And I was like so appreciative of that because I was starving. And yeah, it's just a super, super thoughtful guy. But
he's the best to have on such trips.
Exactly.
Like making sure everybody's all right. He's like the father of the group, you know?
Yeah.
I gotta go around and mother everyone.
So I wanted to we could talk about the animated maps and everything like that. As a matter of fact, I'm getting some feedback on here, a lot of positive comments about the animated maps.
That's awesome.
And I do want we also have Marcel chiming
Frozen
in.
pizza specialist.
Here's one thing I'll say about the maps, and then we'll move on. Here's something behind the scenes that people don't see about the maps. Is, Sander and I will be communicating, and I'll kind of give him an idea of what I want and what we're looking for in the episode that's where it's going to fit in. And God bless him, he'll say, when do you need this by? And a lot of times my answer is tomorrow. So I'm getting better at that, but he has sacrificed.
We're working ahead more now.
Yeah. He has sacrificed a lot of sleep for the good of the channel. So I hope people appreciate that.
Yeah, speak. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Speaking of maps, for the next episode that nobody else ever knows about, the maps are uploaded just like half an hour ago. So
Oh, sweet.
I don't have to text at you now.
I can attest to Sander working on them though, because every time I call him, I'm like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Map animations." I'm like, "Okay, I'll speak to you tomorrow."
So I mean, while we're on the call here, I mean the rough draft for the episode after that, I haven't even started yet. So
Yeah. So now this is what I have to work with, lads, ladies and gentlemen. So.
So you've also both just launched, or you're getting ready to launch, or you're
Not yet.
Yeah. Okay. So you have it in the oven cooking.
Yeah.
Tour company. Yeah.
Well, this is Sean expertise, cooking in the oven. So Sean, I'll let you have the talk then.
Yeah. So if we go back a little bit, Sander's knowledge of Market Garden especially, I have pestered this guy for years saying, you need to do your own tours, Market Garden. Do your own tours around Market Garden. He never took me seriously. And then one day out of the blue, he rang me and he said, I want to make a tour company. And I was just like, what have you taken? Why have you decided to do that? And asked me to come along for the ride and help put it together. And then here we are, I think maybe 2 months ago, 2.5 months ago, it was kind of the idea really brewed. But now we've got a website that's pretty much fully functioning. Other bits and pieces have been created, and launch day is going to be the 1st of February. So yeah, we've got a lot to do behind the scenes. We're actually hooking up next week for 5 days just to film a few bits to support the idea and the and bits like that. So yeah, it's exciting times ahead, I think.
Yeah. Next week we're going out to film the trailer for the website, and I'll be putting it on YouTube, on my YouTube channel as well. Do a lot of small marketing videos to different places and stuff. So yeah, we're going to have a lot of time to film next week. Going to do a road trip of 5 days. So start in the Netherlands, go all the way to France, then all the way to the west of France, all the way up north again. So yeah, it's going to be a hectic week next week, Sean.
Like
You're prepared for it?
1,500 kilometers, right, in 5 days, I think.
More. I think more. It's, if you add everything up, probably like 2,000. I think.
So
yeah.
So Market Garden, that wasn't in France. So what else? What do you else?
No.
You guys,
No.
So what we
on the list here?
Yeah, what we are going to do with our company. So the company is specialized in Market Garden. That's like my expertise. And Sean is really knowledgeable all about British World War I and World War II history. And so we had a brainstorm about it. Like, if we only do like a Market Garden touring company, that would be a little bit too narrow, because not everybody is really interested in Market Garden. And a lot of people are interested in World War I, and some in World War II, some in stuff that happened in France, some in stuff that happened in Belgium. So we were thinking about it, and we were like, hey, why don't we make a niche in the touring sector that people can go to us, ask us to really customize a personalized tour for them. So if somebody comes to us and wants to see stuff in the Somme, or maybe his great-grandfather fought in the Somme, then we will look up his great-grandfather, find his regiment, battalion, stuff like that, where they fought, and then we will customize depending on how many days they want. We will customize a tour especially to that person. So that is a little bit of the niche of our company that we are going to start in February.
All right, cool. And Sean, like you're kind of, well, both of you are into the history of the First World War. That's what we were focusing on, on our trip earlier this year. Sean, didn't you have a relative who was in the First World War?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, so my great-grandfather, Walter, he actually served there. He arrived a little bit later on in the war, but he was involved when the Germans had a big counterattack. So when we were out there, we were a bit hit and miss finding the area exactly he served in, but I think I got within kind of a 2-kilometer sort of radius of the area. A lot of his war record kind of disappeared, so it's stuff that I've kind of found out through the family. And Chris from Vlogging Through History, crazy knack of just pulling things off the internet and finding war records. He actually found out a bunch of stuff, even to the point where I was telling my dad about his grandfather. I was telling him info that even he didn't know about his,
Yeah.
So yeah, Chris did me a solid on that one, which is really appreciated. But depending on time, I think we're going to be in the Somme again next week. So maybe if we can deviate slightly, I might try and get back to roughly where he was and see if I can find some more info.
Yeah, Chris, I don't know what his resources are, but I mean,
I have no clue.
Some kind of wizardry with
magic
the thing
fingers.
Is with Chris though, is you'll ask him on like a bus in the middle of Belgium. I'm like, oh, Chris, my great grandfather. 5 minutes later on his phone, he's like, is this him? Is this his info? I'm like, what is this? How have you done that? But it's credit to the guy. He's a wizard.
Yeah. So I just recently started doing some research on a Civil War ancestor that I have, and I told him he was in the 10th Missouri Regiment, and he's like, oh wow. So he's like, what's his name? So I gave him the name, and within like 2 minutes he got back with me, and he said, I think you meant 10th Missouri Cavalry, right? He said, I went through all the records for the 10th Infantry, and your great grandpa's name didn't show up on there. And he said, I did find one here, and blah, blah, blah. And he starts like rattling off all this stuff. I was like, great. So yeah, with this tour company, you guys, I mean, have a lot of good resources that you're pulling from in order to make.
Yeah, you can't profess to know everything about every conflict, every battlefield. But I think the niche, as Sander said, is if someone comes to us and they've had a relative that served in an area, part of the package will be the research prior to the event and putting an itinerary together to be like, hey, this is what we found. We know the areas. We'll do everything on the back end, and then be able to deliver some sort of package, which will hopefully be, a very memorable moment for those people.
Yeah. So you guys also have an advantage of just being right there. Within driving distance of so many of these places. Like Sandra, you're pretty much like right next door to the battlefield as far as Market Garden.
I'm an hour away.
Okay.
And the funny thing is, I am jealous of you Americans in some ways, like maybe like the gun freedom that you guys can have easier access to guns and then shoot them because I like guns or hunting, stuff like that. But I am definitely not jealous on the geographic location that you are in, all the way on the other side of the world, while everything with my interest in history happened like on this side of the world. So I'm definitely not jealous about that.
Yeah, even if you're into Civil War history, depending on where you live, like where I live, it's pretty sparse as far as any Civil War stuff. I got to travel halfway across the country to get into anything. Everything here in Europe is so compact. That was one thing that really surprised me when I started driving around like the World War I battlefields, is really how close like the Somme and Arras and Ypres are to each other. I mean, they're for an American, it's like what we would drive on a Sunday afternoon to go get a sandwich or something. It's crazy.
But just imagine, we are going to film next week, 5 days. We are going to hit Arnhem. We are going to hit the south, Overloon, so the south of the Netherlands. We're going to hit Bastogne. We are going to hit Verdun. Then we are going to Albert, to the Somme. And then we are going to Ypres. And then maybe if we have time left, I was thinking about Dunkirk, but I'm not sure. It's probably not that we're not going to make it. And then we'll head back up to Amsterdam. And that's like in 5 days. And then each day we'll still have time to go everywhere in and around Bastogne or Verdun or the Somme. So that's sort of gives you an idea like how close everything is together.
Yeah, we've kind of got a rough plan of where we're going, but we'll just see where the road takes us a little bit. But yeah, we've got it penned in. So
yeah.
Here's a quick question before I let you guys go. Did the British government keep archives of service files, or did they go to the Imperial War Museum? So for the British, like what's your source if you're looking for the history of a veteran?
Right now, my source, I'm just going to ring Chris, I think. But no, You can. You've got obviously the Commonwealth War Graves Commission and the Imperial War Museum to an extent, but even things like Ancestry have military war records you can get onto now, which is I don't know if I fully understood it. I need to look at my account on there, but I pay a little bit extra to get extra access. And there's also like a helpline, so you can contact the guys if you're really struggling, and they can kind of point you in the right direction. So,
okay,
yeah, I think a lot of records are pretty good. I think, I heard stories of damages and fires in years after that's destroyed a lot, but a lot of it's still accessible if you know where to look.
Okay, a lot of the war diaries that the regiments kept, like if you can figure out what regiment they were in.
Yeah.
I've read some of those war diaries that give you a pretty good record of, where they were on what day and, different things like that. Yeah. Rob.
Oh, yeah, what Rob's saying as well.
He's helped me out quite a bit with that in the past, trying to find something on a particular British regiment.
Yeah. Rob also knows really well what he's doing.
Yeah. And the UK is not huge, but you go back to, say, World War One, especially, even before that, the Boer War, Zulu Wars, every sort of county, or a mini state, shall we say, every county had their county regiment. So since years have passed, a lot of them have amalgamated. So you've lost like a certain yeomanry, which was part of the country, and it's formed into a bigger battalion now.
Okay.
If you start digging into the unit histories, you can kind of trace where these guys were, and there's a lot of good literature and books. And a lot of the local regiments, there's still museums today which have their own archive. So in the place called Dorchester, it's where the Devonshire Regiment museum is. There's archives and stuff that those guys have got access to, particularly around the local regiment. So it can be a bit complicated now just because of the amalgamations over the years. Units have been pushed into a battalion to form a bigger unit. So yeah, it does chop and change, but yeah, there's some good literature on it, and the books are the main tool.
Okay. So the content that you guys are getting ready to go out and film, is that going to just be on the tour company website, or is it also you're going to be putting it on the channel, or have you?
Yeah, it's the main trailer is also going on my YouTube channel and on the website, of course. And then the rest of the content is going to be on the Instagram, Sandifique Tours, and on the website. We are going to have a blog section on the website, so it's going to be on there. We have a Facebook as well, Sandifique Tours. And we'll probably have a discussion next week on if we are going to open like a Twitter account or a TikTok account and stuff like that, because I've know that you, JD, have been experimenting with that in the past, like going on Twitter, on Rumble, and on different platforms.
Yeah, I'm about maxed out on my social media platforms, though. I can't add any.
Well, that's what we are going to discuss and still need to decide on.
Okay.
Yeah,
and then when it goes live, what is the tour website?
SandifiqueTours.com.
SandifiqueTours.com.
Pretty easy.
.com.
Yeah. Well, by the time it will be on my Instagram, and then on Prince Harry.
Chris, the archive, gobbing off again.
Yeah, he's been on fire lately. He's been
who put 50p?
He's been fighting with people lately. I'm like, oh, dude. I love your channel, man. I've been watching you way back, even before I've been watching JD, and now I work with him, which is pretty funny. But dude, I don't know how you got that leaflet. Yeah, you told me, but that is just crazy. A Market Garden propaganda leaflet. That's something that really makes me jealous.
Oh, cool. All right. Well,
that's cool.
Yeah, when things start going live, people will be watching on any of my social media outlets. We'll be pumping that out. One of the things that we've been talking about is kind of this transition period where people are the way that we process and interact with history is changing. So yeah, I think what you guys are doing with providing a medium for people to go walk the battlefield for themselves, whether they have a relative or not. I think that's great. And having been on the battlefield with you guys myself, it's people are going to definitely be pleased with the experience. I think you've already done a tour, right?
I've done multiple. I've done I think 4 already, 4 or 5. Yeah.
Okay.
I've even done one with Chris as well, so Chris can probably vouch a little bit for me. But no, I've done 4 or 5 tours already. Yeah. And next year or the year after that, I expect you in some market garden areas, JD.
I'll tell you what.
Finally, after years.
Hell yeah.
I legit have more requests for Market Garden than any other place. I think I've offended every Dutch viewer that I have by not doing Market Garden. I'm constantly getting questions from people in the Netherlands like, when are you going to come to our country and talk about Market Garden?
Yeah. Dude, there's so much to talk about in Market Garden. It's insane.
It's on the list.
Yeah.
But, all right,
and if you come and do a Market Garden tour, JD, I'll make sure you get breakfast every day.
Right. And then we'll swap merch because Sean is wearing our merch now, Sanity Tours merch.
I saw that.
And then we'll swap it. Hey.
Looking good.
And also representing We Happy Few. I'm still representing them as well. Even though we are starting our own company, our tour company, we still we stay representing We Happy Few. So
that's a good thing about this community is everybody's friends. We occupy the same space. So anyway.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
That's cool.
Thanks for jumping in and chatting it up a little bit.
Yeah.
It's good seeing you guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us on, JD.
Talk to each other soon.
Really kind of you.
All right. See you, man.
All right. Cheers, man. Bye-bye.
All right. So yeah, Sandra VK Tours is the website, and like I said, I've walked the battlefields with those guys, and they most certainly take it seriously and know what they're doing. So when they get things out and rolling, we'll be pumping that out on all of our social media stuff. And if you have aspirations of, if you're an American or British or whatever, of going to the battlefields, definitely want to check them out. All right, next channel that we are going to bring in are like some legit TV celebrities. So I'm pretty excited to bring in Scott and Jen from Walk with History. How's it going?
Hey JD, how are you?
Happy New Year, JD.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you too. Man, you all have got a lot going on. I thought that I was busy, but holy cow.
Yeah, I'd say busy in a different way.
Yeah.
Jen's been traveling around a fair amount this last year. I mean, much like you. And then we've just kind of had some cool opportunities, that have just popped up, and I'm preaching to the choir. You try to take advantage of those when they come up.
Yeah.
Sure.
2024 was a big year, JD. I mean, we moved. We moved, and that was huge. I mean, Scott's active duty Navy. We moved from Virginia. I heard you say you were jealous of all the Virginians. A lot of great history in Virginia.
Yes.
We moved from Virginia to Memphis to Tennessee, and picking up a house and 3 kids and moving was like a huge thing. But we got a new studio.
Yeah.
So I see that. It looks nice.
Yeah, this is something that I've been wanting to do for a couple years, because for Talk with History, our podcast, I've basically, the only way we were able to make that happen when we were living in Virginia is I had to set up our studio every single night on our living room table, and then we were done, break it down every single time. So I did that close to 100+ times over the course of a couple years, and that's how we did Talk with History. And when we finally came here, we got a house that had a dedicated studio space.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. It looks good.
I've been working hard at getting this thing set up.
Corner in my house here with a deer head in the background.
Hey, I like that though. That's cool.
I gotta up my game here a little bit.
Like your co-host back there.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and what you were talking about, JD, so you'll see us on House Hunters. We filmed an episode of House Hunters buying this house. And we talk about being military. We talk about the Talk with History podcast and how we're looking for podcasting space. The episode hasn't aired yet, but when it does, you'll see all of that and our work as historians and active duty military. They show us historic builds in Memphis. And so you get to see kind of the houses we looked at before we chose this one.
So I haven't talked to you guys since you've moved or since any of that happened.
Yeah.
when you announced it, I was like, holy smokes, well, that's cool.
Mhm.
So how did that come about? Now, what channel is that on, by the way? I can't
That's going to
remember.
be on HGTV.
Yeah, that's on the classic House
Mhm.
Hunters thing.
Okay.
And really, we haven't been able to post pictures of the outside of the house and not too many of the inside because they say, hey, don't post stuff on social media till it airs.
So people are
but
seeing it here first.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but really, and honestly, like just by this set,
You
it's
wouldn't
set up
know.
enough. You still probably can't tell.
Yeah.
You know, but essentially we were, and we didn't realize this till we were doing it, but we were going through the closing process. And Jen just says to me one night, this is obviously we were still in Norfolk,
Mhm.
Virginia. She just says, hey, I'm gonna jump on House Hunters website and apply. I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. And then the next day we got a phone call. Yeah, it was
It was
crazy.
crazy.
And then the day after that, we were on a Zoom call with like a field producer,
Mhm.
and then it was off to the races from there. And they were like, "Hey, we'll set it up," and they set up the whole thing. And we'll talk more about it after it airs. I don't want to like
Sure.
go too much because we did sign some stuff, basically saying like we wouldn't give too much away
Mhm.
Yeah.
until after it airs. But it was off to the races. She just signed up, and
It
that
was
was that.
It was so great. I think they liked my joke. So Scott and I heard you say you married 20 years. Happy anniversary,
Oh,
JD.
thanks.
Yeah.
Scott and I have been married 18 years, and I'm 5 years older than Scott. And so I told them that I was a puma. I'm not a full cougar. And I think they really love that joke.
Oh, that's funny. So you all had again, if I ask questions that's revealing too
Yeah.
much, just say, I'm not
Sure.
answering that. So just so I'm clear, had you guys already bought the house in
Yeah,
Memphis?
That's
And
kind of
then
how it works.
so that's how it ends up working out. Like we had already for the Navy, I had orders to come from Norfolk to the Memphis area
Mhm.
because there's a Navy base just outside of Memphis.
Okay.
And if everybody asks, like, what's the Navy doing in the Memphis area? Back in the day, they used to do air training out
Mhm.
here, so there was flight training out
World War
here.
II training base here.
So when all the flight training went to Florida, there was still state and Navy base here, and a lot of the administrative hub of the Navy is out here.
Oh,
And so I
Mm.
had orders out. We had gone out. We had scouted out some homes. We had put an offer in on one that didn't happen. We put an offer in on another one, which actually turned out for the better for us. And we started the closing process. And as we were closing, that's when we went on the that's when Jen went on to apply. And it was just bam, right. It just took right off. I was so surprised because she told me that literally just like in the evening after the kids were in bed. She's like, I'm gonna apply to be on House Hunters. It's like, yeah, sure, whatever. and 2 days later, we're on a Zoom call with a field producer. It was
Mhm.
crazy.
that's wild.
Yeah.
That's mostly how Walk with History works. It's like, I'm going to do this. And Scott's like, okay. And same thing with the pinups for vets. I was selected to
Yeah.
be in that calendar of veteran women. And we dress in the 1940s pinup, and all the proceeds of the calendar goes to VA healthcare and VA homes. And we do VA home visits. I just applied. I didn't even tell him, and got selected for it, and went out and did that photo shoot in California, and then did a lot of work with that. And then when
Yeah.
we saw each other, JD, at Normandy, at the American Cemetery in Normandy, I was dressed in the 40s pinup, remember? And
Yeah.
so I kind of use that to kind of, when I'm doing anything World War II, I can dress in that 1940s pinup. And it really has added to the character of the channel. So it's been kind of fun to do that too.
Yeah, and I was going to tell you, I never did get back with you after we bumped into each other at Normandy. I felt so bad that
It's okay, you were busy.
when I saw you, I was with a group and we had some veterans with us, and I was sent out on a mission to find somebody who had got disconnected from our group.
Mm.
So I couldn't hang around and talk too much. And I meant to send you a message afterwards to explain that. But anyway, yeah, it was cool bumping into you there. So I honestly haven't talked to you guys in a while. Tell me about the Normandy trip. What all you that was involved.
So that was something that Jen got to do.
Mhm.
It was really kind of more of a kind of like a birthday present for her, but something she really wanted to do. So she actually went out with a couple Navy friends.
Yeah, I went out with 2 Navy veteran friends, women that I had served with. We all went together. We did like a tour. And I made a lot of content for the channel while I was out there doing that as well. But the highlight was I got to put sand from Omaha Beach into the grave of Harry Wagner. And at Penn State, I had the Navy scholarship to go to Penn State. the Wagner building is the building where you train in for all of ROTC at Penn State, because he was a Penn Stater who was at D-Day, and he died about 2 weeks after.
Yeah.
But he was part of that initial wave, and he's buried there at the American Cemetery in Normandy. So they allowed me to put sand in his grave, and I left a Penn State flag on that 80th anniversary. So that was probably the most special thing I got to do.
That's cool. Now, some people who are watching this may not know what you're talking about when you say put sand in his grave. What is that?
So they have a bucket of sand from the beach, from Omaha Beach, and the graves are they've been
like engraved,
but you can't see it because it's white on white.
Yeah.
And then if you put the sand into the engraving, you can read their names, their the date that they died, their service, and the state that they're from. You can read all of that. And it's just so neat to be able to do that with the sand from the beach of Normandy. So it really is an honor.
For people who haven't seen it, you can probably go online and find pictures.
Yep.
It's really a neat thing that they do, because the name and where they were from and what unit they were with really pops out. And there's kind of a, when you see it done, there's almost like a physical connection there, because you're rubbing the sand into
it's like, that's exactly what I was thinking right when you said it. It's a way to physically recognize the person that you've come to see, that you've come to honor, and that's why it's so cool for Jen to be able to do that.
It's such a profound effect on my military career. And so for me, like, I spent hours in the Wagner building and not even knowing who he was or what he did. And so to be able to do that for me came such full circle.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you saw, JD, I was on French television doing that.
Uh-huh.
So then it was funny because they had Tom Hanks, and then it cuts to me, and I'm like, look, the French think I'm just as important as Tom Hanks. It was really cool.
Oh, and Jen kind of, she made a, just like anybody, just like you, she made a trip out of it. So she did a couple of videos there. She went to Paris and went to Lafayette's grave.
Went to Lafayette's grave.
That was really neat.
Left a flag there, left a coin there. That was important for me too, because of all the work we do in Virginia.
Sure.
And with Lafayette. And so that meant a lot to be able to see, he's in the American soil from Bunker Hill, and to leave an American flag there at his grave. That was really special.
It's cool.
Yeah. We've been talking throughout the whole chat here about how, like we're going through all the 80th anniversary stuff with World War II. And how it's going to change. One of the things that's really neat about going to like these 80th anniversaries, I'm sure there were several veterans that you met while you were there.
Oh yeah.
And it's wild to think that that's about over.
It was amazing. So while I saw you, JD, I was dressed in the red polka dots, right?
Uh-huh.
And the lady who represented Rosie the Riveter, she saw me. She came to me. She was with her aides, and she said, "Bring me to the Rosie girl." And I wasn't even I didn't really think, oh my gosh, I am dressed in the red polka dots. And so we talked, and I got to thank her for what she did for women during World War II.
Yeah.
And that was really special. But like you said, I've met some of the veterans, and for me, that was such an honor. And to be there in Normandy meeting them was such an honor as well. Yeah. I love, and I think you talked about Masters of the Air, and we did a Masters of the Air. And, of course, I'm going to tell everyone I'm a pilot, because that's my joke, right? How do you know who the pilots are in the room? Don't worry, they'll tell you. Military training for aviation hasn't really changed much since World War II. Okay. So everything those pilots went through training-wise, we go through the same training, because we're training on the same kind of aircraft, and the aerodynamics hasn't changed, right? So to be able to talk about that with them, and I met a P-51 pilot who in Camarillo Airport in California, and he was part of World War II, and he did Korea and a little bit of Vietnam. But to be able to talk to a fellow pilot, and the P-51 is one of my favorite aircraft. It's just great to be able to do that and to share that. I really, I am so appreciative of the generation that came before me. I love to be able to, with military service, to kind of keep it going and to honor them. So yeah, to meet them is always such an honor for me. I think the biggest honor for me.
It's wild to think that these World War II veterans, when they were younger, it was Civil War veterans.
Yes.
Yeah,
that-
that's right.
Yep.
Yeah, their grandparents were in the Civil War.
Mhm.
So that connection, from one generation to the next is pretty amazing. What do you guys got lined up for 2025? Any big plans?
We've got a few things.
So I have been hired by American Cruise Line to be their historian on the Memphis cruise. So Memphis to New Orleans on the Mississippi. So if you'd like to take a cruise, we'll talk about Vicksburg. We'll talk about the World War II Museum in New Orleans. Talk about the Natchez Trace and do a lot of that history. I've also been hired to do their Nantucket cruise.
Yeah, so some whaling history.
So whaling history. And so
that would be very
fun.
interesting.
Yeah, right.
Even Jen was kind of telling me a little bit, because this opportunity just kind of came up, and she again submitted an application just to try out. Yeah, whatever. And then of course again it happens, right? So every time I say that, so Jen, you need to send an email to somebody else and just have me say yeah, whatever, because it seems to make it work. But obviously Jen's very comfortable talking about history, right? Doing the channel, obviously you just kind of worked that muscle for quite a while. So she kind of sailed right through the hiring process, and they're like, oh yeah, we saw your channel, we think you'd be great, this, that, and the other.
Oh, that's
and
amazing.
So then there's kind of, this will be her first year, so she'd be like junior, right? There's other historians or kind of tour guides that are doing this stuff, who kind of get their pick first. But they said right away, like, yeah, you can do the Memphis one, you can do the Nantucket one. And then she started looking at whaling history. That's super interesting. You start talking about, was it Heart of the Sea?
Yeah, the Heart of the Sea. If you've never seen that movie, and there's the book,
interesting history.
But
there.
Of course, Moby Dick. The whaling industry really powered the Industrial Revolution. And so when you think about whale oil and the lamps and all the lighting, when you think of America and even worldwide, the whaling industry really did power the world for a good 10, 20 years.
Yeah, and from a history kind of creator perspective, like us, right? You and us, the stories there are so interesting.
That was a different lifestyle. I don't know a whole lot about it. My level of whaling history is very surface level. But man, those were some rugged, grizzled guys.
Yeah.
That had to go out and do that.
Yeah, and they would leave. I mean, they would go off on their whaling trip for like 2 to 3 years straight. They would leave. They would leave town. They would leave the town.
Because you have to leave Nantucket and go around South America out into the Pacific to whale, and then you'd have to come back. You'd have to, kill a couple whales and then come back with all the barrels of oil, and it would take years.
That's crazy.
Wow.
I know.
Yeah. So we're excited for her to get up there to not only learn about it, but then when you start talking about it, you're going to learn it even better. Right. And then hopefully there's some future videos we'll be able to do up there. Probably not right away, but it's a cool opportunity that's coming up.
Oh man. Yeah. I was listening. I heard something on a podcast. It's not too long ago. And I can't go too in depth on it because I just can't remember all of the details, but there was a hypothesis that the discovery of oil in America probably saved the whales.
Oh yeah.
Because we converted over from using whale oil to using, oil out of the ground, which I thought was completely fascinating.
Absolutely. Well, the whaling industry, they wanted to make sure I knew a lot about environmental history, because that's another avenue of history that people don't really talk about as much. But the whaling industry changed the migration of whales because they were avoiding, right? They avoided all the, hunters, and they went to the Pacific because at least they could survive out there. And when you talk about the Essex, which Moby Dick is based off of, that's the instance where a whale fights back.
Yeah.
Right. And it wasn't the only time that happened. There's actually 5 ships that they know of where whales actually fought back. And it kind of reminds me of like elephants, where elephants kind of, knew they were being hunted and kind of charged back.
Yeah.
It's the same thing that the whales were doing. So it's really big in environmental history because it changed the whole way whales even migrated. And like you said, it probably saved their lives because they were hunted to such an extreme.
Yeah.
And then when the fossil fuels were found, it changed the whole industry.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, have a little bit of an interest in the outdoors and hunting and things like that. So when you look at the history of market hunting and what was done, 1800s especially, where whether it was the bison or white-tailed deer or turkeys or anything, where these animals were hunted nearly to extinction. Like the state that I live in, I remember my grandpa telling me, he grew up during the Depression, probably about 10 miles from where my house is right now. And he said that he can remember seeing his first deer. Something that, I mean, we see deer all the time now. It's nothing. But if somebody even found a deer track like that, that would be the talk of the town.
Wow.
That, hey, Jonathan Hunt, found a deer track on his farm last week, and it was a huge deal. And then those numbers have bounced back.
Yeah.
Taking that and thinking about the whaling industry. Yeah, that's you're gonna force me to go to Amazon and start buying whaling.
It's a part of history that I think not a ton of people. It's not like World War II history where it's like super studied and stuff like that. So we're kind of excited to do that.
Mm-hmm.
We've got some other stuff coming up this year. We're hoping to do some work with National History Day. We'll see. So I don't know if you're familiar with them. They're basically, so Jen has kind of actually judged for them in the past when she was, going work on her master's here in Memphis and stuff like that. So we're hoping to do some work and videos with them. We'll see. We're not sure of what's coming out of that. And then we're trying to kind of push the podcast forward. Obviously with the studio, and then we've got some interviews we're going to start trying to do sometime in the future. And
we are doing some book reviews, and I know True Grit was such a big part of our channel. JD, you and I talked about, John Wayne's best performances, right? And so I read The Searchers. So there will be a Searchers review comparing the movie to the book. I love talking about John Wayne and the history of all of that. There was some women who were actually kidnapped by Indian tribes and held for years. And there are accounts of people who searched for them and tried to integrate them back into Western American culture and what that was like. So the true stories behind what The Searchers is based off of as well.
Isn't that loosely based on the story of Cynthia Parker?
Yes. Loosely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Have you read Empire of the Summer Moon?
No. Is that the true story?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Read it. It's about Cynthia Parker and Quanah Parker, and it talks about the Comanche and
Yep.
The book's incredible. And man, that was a brutal bunch of people. Like the Comanche, they were a very skilled bunch of hunters and warriors and horsemen, and were not very sparing when it came to fighting against their enemies. Like there's almost kind of like a genocide that they commit against the Apache.
Oh, absolutely. And to survive that, like if you were kidnapped and to survive that, you really do have to integrate into their culture to survive it.
Yeah.
And so when you tell the stories of these women, and if you ever watch The Searchers, like I think it's John Wayne's best performance because it's such an arc of his character.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's the birth of the anti-hero because he's a person who you love to hate. What he's doing is so commendable, but he's such a terrible person. And so I just love telling that story. And it is a true story from the West. And so I really would love to do that. People love to talk Wayne. and performances and stuff like that as well, as you know, JD.
Oh, yeah.
But so I think that'll be really great. And we have done some work, as you know, JD. Thank you again too, with American Battlefield Trust.
Yes.
Yeah, they're great.
They've been great. And we've been doing some work for them, and we've done Shiloh, and we've done the Battle of Nashville in sponsorship from them, and that's been really great to tell those kind of stories that don't really get, again, all of the attention that they should get.
Yeah, I watched your video on the Battle of Nashville, and I mean, I've been to Nashville several times and been to Franklin and everything like that, and I had not been to any of those places that you went. So
yeah, it's a much kind of lesser known because it's really at the tail end of the war, right? Things are kind of starting to wrap up, and that was kind of the last straw for at least in Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
Really, what was it? 3 or 4 months later, the war's over.
Yeah.
Right.
So that one kind of just gets a little lost in the sauce, but it's right next to the downtown, so it's cool sight.
Oh, look, someone said I beat you to Aldeborn. I love Band of Brothers as well, right? So Dick Winters, right? I love, as we were both officers. Scott Silla's officer, I was an officer, and so I always appreciated Dick Winters, what it was like, that psyche of leading people.
Sure.
And so to go to Aldeborn was such a treat for me, and I liked telling the Barnes family story because of what they meant to him. And so Aldeborn was really cool to actually be there and do that.
Yeah, and what makes that exceptionally sad is he lives there.
Too bad we could have met up. That would have been fun.
It's funny how there's so much history in our backyard that we overlook because we're looking over here and over there, and we want to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we think is so important. And, I wanted to say thank you, JD. Like, we met very early on in our channel, your channel, and we collaborated early, and we've really have supported each other. And I thank you. Like, it's been great to have that support from someone like you. And now we're almost in the same neck of the woods.
Yeah, we're working on it.
Yeah,
So we should do something close by, right?
Absolutely.
Mark Twain or Johnny Cash or something.
Yeah, I've been wanting to get to Memphis for a while.
Yeah.
I've never been to the place where Martin Luther King was assassinated.
Yes, the Lorraine Motel.
Yeah, and I think Fort Pillow isn't too far.
Not too far.
Yeah, it's just north of us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've wanted to go to Fort Pillow as well. So yeah, we'll have to make that happen. Anybody who is watching this, Walk with History is another one that you should definitely be subscribing to, and the podcast. So I don't recommend watching YouTube videos while you're in your car, which is where their podcast Talk with History comes in, and it's outstanding stuff too. Yeah, you guys do such a great job.
Yeah, thank you so much.
It's great to listen to as you're driving to the location. So if you're going to Shiloh, if you're going to Vicksburg, we kind of explain where to park and what you want to see and don't miss, and kind of things that you might be thinking of, like, when I get there, what should I do? We try to give you that advice.
Yeah, to me, listening to a podcast as you're going someplace or something like that, it's like the closest thing to that scene in The Matrix where they jack that thing in the back of Neo's head and just download the information. That's what it's like, because it's fresh, it's right there, and then you can appreciate what it is that you're seeing all the more. So anyway, well, hey, appreciate you guys jumping in here and hanging out for a little bit. And we need to get together again.
Absolutely. Yeah, that'd be super fun. So 2025 should be a great year. We're looking forward to it. I'm sure you are too.
Yeah. Happy
absolutely.
New Year.
All right. Well, hey, you guys take it easy. All right. Well, hey, that is it. So again, there are a lot of different history channels that I watch and enjoy. The folks that you've seen here today is just a selection of that. So hopefully you will go and support those channels and subscribe and watch their content, because man, it's all so good. There's nobody who I've had on today that I'm not just a huge fan of. So thanks for hanging out with us today. Again, appreciate the support. Those of you who are supporters on Patreon, I don't show enough appreciation to you all, but I appreciate the extra mile that you all go to to support the channel. We have some big plans for 2025, and yeah, look forward to sharing the history. So again, hope that everyone has a great new year, and thanks for joining us.